Reveille.
Look at us now, tip to
Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
to us, doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah, it's Monday morning. Get fired up. Morning Kombat back in your absolute face hole from home today with a big time episode, Monday, June 2nd, 2025, recapping a wild Apex card in the UFC, big upsets in PBC boxing, so much more to get into. Hey, it's also UFC 316 fight week, but Luke Thomas, I'm Brian Campbell. We're going to push through the festivities for one big reason. Today's a pretty big damn day in MK show history because I don't know if you're peeping what I'm rocking right there. I don't know if you're peeping what's on the chest stash of old Luke Thomas over there, Luke. I mean, can you see that? Hey, guys, long rumored, now believe it. It's here right freaking now. Morning Kombat merch 3.0 has arrived. Merch is back. Somebody tell Saul we are live right now. morningkombat.shop. In addition to your old favorites, we'll be releasing limited edition merch each month. For June, we have the Skits and Bits shirt that I'm rocking right now. We got a Skits and Bits hoodie, and we have 18 by 24 MK Beavis and Butthead posters autographed by yours truly, BC and LT. These three items are only available from now until the end of the month, so don't miss your chance to grab them, and we'll announce each month's drop on the first episode of the month, so make sure to tune into MK Mondays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Once again, morningkombat.shop. It is live. It is ready to go. Luke Thomas, we have special thanks, of course, to Long Island Luke Nocita, who we'll hear from in a second, to the great illustrator, Average Joe Romero, who played a big role in getting back on the map. How do you feel today, Luke, that finally all the money's going to us, by the way, and finally we have merch?
Well, we're sharing it with Nocita as well, right? He gets a big cut of this whole operation because really he is the one who kind of spearheaded a return to a viable place to go. So morningkombat.shop, morningkombat.shop. BC gave you all the details. Thank you to all of the viewers and the listeners for their patience with this one. Sometimes these moves, BC, every part of the move away from the previous way in which we were doing it to our new place, which of course we're delighted to be at. Some of these things were a lot more complicated than they look.
Yes.
But here we are, morningkombat.shop, and fresh stuff, new stuff, ready to go. And we hope to make it worth your while. Thank you so much for all of your patience and waiting for it, but we're glad to finally have it ready for you.
And we are going to have, as mentioned, new stuff on the regular, a lot of limited edition things that'll come your way. You always wanted that on an MK t-shirt. Now you're going to get that chance. Let's bring in one half of the Main Card Minute podcast. He's the director, producer, bong enthusiast of this show. And he arrived in the U.S. by one-way ticket from an Australian man's satchel. Long Island Luke Nocita, not only do you play a huge role in this show, but Luke was right. We don't get this merch off the ground without you, without Average Joe Art. So thank you for your service. But, you're an investor now. This is the future. MK Merch 3.0.
Dude, I'm hyped. I'm glad to be a part of it, guys. Special shout out to Average Joe Art. He was a huge help for this whole process. Sure. Big shout out. I'm hyped, guys. Let's fucking get it.
Can you put the graphic up one more time that you put up with me and Brian's face? No. The other one. Yeah, look at this photo. It looks like Brian got caught by the cops for masturbating at the bus stop for the fourth time. And I'm talking to the cop about how it can be while BC is there waiting for me to bail him out with a look of enormous shame on his face. That's a very MK picture there, if I do say so myself.
Skits, right? Come on, Luke.
Yeah.
Skits. All right.
Tough crowd.
I'm really excited. It was in some ways it was easier to get this going than I expected, but it did take time, and we had to get out of our own way to make it work, but we are here. And like we mentioned, the proceeds come to us, guys. So this is the new era of MK merch, and we're really excited about it. So
for folks who are always like, how can we support the show? Many ways you can support it. Just listening, sharing a link, all that stuff is, or watching, all of that is actually quite helpful and quite valuable. But another way, of course, is to purchase merch. That now is a thing that goes to us, and again, with Nocita getting a big chunk of it as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You can follow the show at those social links that we just mentioned. Follow us at our extended YouTube channels, including Luke Nocita over there at the Main Card Minute.
Hey, hold on. Hey, pull that back up. Hey, how was that Main Card Minute boyfriend of the year? On maybe the most irrelevant UFC card of all time.
It was pretty relevant. We made history. I don't think a main event has ever dropped out that last minute. So that's what that was my silver lining for that. Like, well, you know, at least this is a card we'll always remember. But no, it was pretty terrible. I'm not gonna
Wow. I mean, could it get any worse for the UFC, Luke? I guess we have to find out.
How about this? Poor Tukey, right? Okay, so we find out on Friday, Shakira canceled her concert. I'm sure you saw this. Dude,
Shakira,
her whole tour, ready? She falls off stage in Montreal, okay? Someone at her New York, New Jersey show at the Meadowlands gave everyone measles. She had to cancel the Boston show the day before, a day or two before our show, and then she had to cancel the DC show as well. The whole thing seems ill-fated. But that happened. Then Saturday, it rained all day for all the stuff that she wanted to do, so we couldn't really get outside. And then yesterday, she was sick. She threw up. And she was fine at the end of the day, and I took her to school this morning, and she threw up at freaking school, so I had to go back and get her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, poor Tukey's had a rough run of it, man. I'm feeling quite bad for my daughter.
I hope she doesn't get any of that rubella, Luke, that's going around. You know what I mean?
No, I think she's all right with that. But
yeah, stay vaccinated.
Anyway,
all right, there you go.
We'll
shout out to Tukey. Shout out to Shakira's hips, Luke. And unfortunately, you were unable.
Lie.
Yeah, in this case, they did not tell the truth. PBC Boxing was a great time over the weekend, Luke. Happy to see the promotion back. The people in Las Vegas by the way, I got donk stopped in a Connecticut grocery store the other morning by an awesome dude that was working there. That was like, love what you and Luke do, and a lot of donks I ran into in Vegas. So great times. People are happy. MK's back. We're on the rise. Let's go. So we have a great show for you today. And if you forgot already, you not only get MK today, but 2 days from now in New York City, Meadowlark Studios, 11 a.m. Eastern at Morning Kombat on YouTube. We're coming back. Thankfully, brought to you by Cuervo. It's UFC 316 pregame preview with BC, LT, and Abron himself, Aaron Bronstetter. Luke, I don't think Abron has ever appeared in studio in MK history.
In studio. No, I don't think he has. I think you're right. I want to make sure I gave him the right call time.
We're going to have to indoctrinate him into how we do things there, right?
Yeah. Okay, good. I did give him the right call time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to maybe ruin his career. That's
yeah. It would be like, sorry, to speak into this microphone, you must first take this bong rip on air right now. Like, yeah, there we go. Shout out to Abron, one of the nicest people. Luke, anything else you want to say before we get into the hard details of an unfortunate weekend in mixed martial arts? You feeling good outside of that? Maybe less C4 in your life and more please don't. Please. Oh boy. Okay. Do you know how bad that one is for you, Luke? Come on.
Not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that bad.
Yeah, right. You should, for all that work you did researching that green liquid, you should be researching that liquid too and get to the bottom.
I mean, but this one wakes you up. I mean,
yeah, with chemicals that are going to remove your organs over time. But
I mean, buddy, I ain't long for this world anyway. You know what I mean?
Fair point. So get the merch before Luke perishes, please. morningkombat.shop. All right, enough of this absolute BS. You came, did you? First of all, congratulations if you did, but you came for boxing and mixed martial arts, and that's what we provide. So why don't we transition right now to topic number one, UFC Fight Night Apex over the weekend. It was supposed to give us a typically watered down card, but with an interesting main event in the women's flyweight division as title contention and maybe a straight up title shot was at stake on paper when Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber were set to face off. But not only did Maycee Barber miss weight on Friday and really looked bad on the scales as she tried her best to get in under that 126-pound main event limit there, it would get a lot worse for her as just moments before the start of the main event, reports backstage would be that Maycee Barber had multiple seizures and the fight was scrapped at the very last minute, leading UFC analyst Laura Senko to literally put her head down on the table in disappointment or maybe even fear for Barber's well-being. Does Erin Blanchfield have that same fear? Well, we'll get into that in a second. But Luke, we know that Barber has had a number of serious health complications that have held back what we felt like was an inevitable march to the top of this division. Is there any way to say from the outside looking in what all of this means? Not for the UFC, not for the warehouse. We're talking about the athlete and her health here for Macy Barber. How scary was this in your eyes to see this fight fall apart and see the reports of what she went through?
Yeah, so this is by my count, at least 3 times she's had to withdraw from a bout. Now, obviously, never this late. This is one of the latest ones you'll ever see. This is up there with Kevin Randleman hitting his head on a pipe, walking out to the fight, or just before walking out to a fight. In terms of the lateness of it, it's hard to get much later than this. But of course, the Rose Namajunas fight she had to withdraw from, and I think maybe even the first attempt at the Montana De La Rosa fight she had to withdraw from. That's to say nothing of some of the other like orthopedic injuries she's had. But BC, I don't know what the medical situation is. And obviously, virtually all of those things are her business, not ours. But if we can connect some of the dots here and at least begin to ask some bigger questions, if you've had now multiple times you've had to withdraw from a fight early, including one, this is, I wouldn't call it catastrophic, but this is concerning at a bare minimum. We don't have this confirmed, but it was at least said by Erin Blanchfield that she was told that Macy had a seizure
from Hunter Campbell, just for
through
the
Hunter Campbell. That's right. Again, that's still secondhand, but nevertheless, that's what she said. And then if you look at the Rose Namajunas situation where she had to pull out, she had a lasting medical illness that her doctors, according to Barber's own social media posts and subsequent discussions about this, that they weren't even sure what it is, and they're still not exactly sure what it is. And it seems to me that whatever it is, BC, again, I don't know what the situation is. I can only make some kind of halfway informed speculation about it, but it does not appear to be over with. It does not appear to be in control. It does not appear to be something that is otherwise a known but containable medical issue or series of medical issues. If you're having a medical event of that kind just before a contest where you can potentially sustain serious head trauma, you have questions about whether you can do this at all. That's not to say, again, I'm not some doctor who can declare definitively what it means and what you can and can't do, BC, but seizures are again, to the extent that that is real, that's a very serious thing. And some seizures, as I understand it, have come with conditions that are largely controllable. I don't know to what extent this one is, especially if some of the situations from the Namajunas fight are still unresolved. Like, what are they trying to identify? What are they trying to get at? And BC, like, I don't have anything near approximating this kind of problem, but when I had that issue with my leg and I had to go to doctor after doctor, you knew about this. I was telling you about it. Doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor, and none of them had any idea what the problem is. These problems can linger. They can get worse. They can lead to subsequent problems because they weren't handled more easily and quickly because they weren't known conditions. Like the amount of cascading downstream problems that it can cause, they tend to get worse over time. So let's just say this. We obviously hope the best for Macy Barber. We obviously hope that she's going to be okay. But I know she's just, 27 years old, BC?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some big questions to ask about. Is this a viable career path right now?
No doubt about that. This is a scary situation for a fighter who's won 6 in a row and one that we generally think is one of the better fighters in this division. Obviously, she came in as a betting underdog against Erin Blanchfield, and this was a fight that really could have propelled the winner, directly into knocking on that door for a title shot. So it's definitely concerning news, as was to some degree her missing weight in general by a half pound when you consider how big of a fight this was for her. But Luke, when I saw her on the scale, I mean, we've seen scary scale situations before. I mean, who was was it Aspen Ladd that time who sort of like was wobbly, and trying to step. I mean, we've seen that before, and none of that is even remotely healthy. But you saw the look of Barber on that scale. She looked like death, and that was really concerning. So then I'm going to say this, even the live video, which Dana White tweeted out of her entering the Apex facility, 2 hours before the main event was supposed to start, I also felt that she didn't look, that healthy in that situation either. This escalates it to a new area. I mean, unfortunately for the UFC, and we're going to get into that discussion, this is a really bad timing to roll out another fight night warehouse card, a card that wasn't that strong up and down. If you have apathy toward women's MMA, maybe you didn't even want the main event, and now you don't get anything. But the human side of this is even bigger. Macy Barber did finally update on social media her condition, showing pictures, as you can see here, of her in the hospital. And specifically what she said here was not what I had planned for a Sunday post. Thank you to everyone for the prayers and support. I owe an apology to UFC, Mick Maynard, Dana White, Sean Shelby, Erin Blanchfield, and P.S. My life is not messy. This is just a bad hand. We will get to the bottom of it all and be back. So, Luke, that messy comment, well, that's in direct relation to how Erin Blanchfield handled this, which was multiple interviews, one with Megan O'Leary right after the main event was canceled, and then one at the press conference afterwards where Blanchfield did not pull any punches. Let's listen in on that.
Yeah, I guess I jinxed myself. I guess I shouldn't have been saying that. I feel like I'm still pretty in disbelief right now. I feel like I was in disbelief yesterday when she missed weight because we knew about this fight since January. You could have been 50 pounds overweight and still made weight. You know what I mean? So she missed weight. Then she gets to Saturday. She gets to the locker room. I'm fully ready to go. She's supposed to be ready to go. Supposedly now she has like all these health issues right when we were supposed to fight. I think it's pretty crazy, pretty unprofessional. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight her again.
Do you know what happened?
I was told she had a seizure in the locker room. I don't know like how or why exactly that was caused, but that's what I was told. I mean, when she missed weight yesterday, I definitely thought that was strange. I mean, I didn't care. I was going to take her money. I would have took her win money tonight too, but I remember they said 6 minutes, and I was like, this feels like a lot longer. Like it didn't feel like 6 minutes. No one said anything until like Hunter came in and told me, that she was having a seizure and that she wouldn't be able to compete. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's almost like a nightmare kind of thing. You almost, when you have jitters, you're like, oh, maybe something will happen. The fight won't happen, but you never want that. You know what I mean? It's it's pretty disappointing. I don't know. She needs to look at another division. She needs to fix her life. She needs to just fix herself. I think she's a complete mess in every aspect of her entire life.
Well, Luke, her nickname is Cold-Blooded. That was cold-blooded as shit, but I have seen a response from people that it's torn. Some people saying, like you mentioned, maybe insensitive to release the medical info, maybe just insensitive in general to talk down to someone's situation, medically, but at the same time, Erin prepared for this fight. I believe I saw where she's still going to get the show and maybe even the win bonus. I'll have to check that. But
that's what her management reported on social media.
So there's that part covered, but there is an unprofessional side of this in general, even separate from the health conditions. How do you read how Erin Blanchfield, in her cold-blooded ways, responded to this?
I mean, I saw. Listen, BC, if you work in this industry long enough, fighters don't come in one type. They come in all different kinds of types, even in a more homogenized combat sports space that we have today. But the reality is there tend to be some kinds of behaviors that are simply much more common among them or considered to be much more acceptable among them. And not having sympathy for an adversary who caused you professional issues is pretty standard. Now, that's not me saying this is the kind of logic that an ordinary person in ordinary life should employ. To your point, it is quite heartless. And if Barber is having medical issues that her doctors cannot discover and or properly control, she is the victim. She is not the perpetrator of these issues. And someone should be able to look at that and say as much. But in fight sports, you're not tasking fighters with having ultimate rationality. You're tasking them with having the kind of viewpoint that lets them have maximum success. And, looking at an opponent in the way in which Blanchfield did here is ugly by normal standards. But to be honest, among a highly competitive prize fighter who has a heated rival who, again, for whatever you want to say about it, by what happened to her, everything on that evening got blown up. Yeah, I don't necessarily expect every fighter to say nice things in that circumstance. When they do, we should praise them, and I think it's a great sign of maturity. But am I losing sleep over what is? Yeah, it's a cold, heartless message. Am I losing sleep over it? No, I am not.
I mean, I kind of agree with her and her team on the idea that like they don't need to run this fight back.
They definitely don't need to run the fight back. Yeah, no. Dude. I mean, this was the problem with this situation. It's one thing we were talking like, oh, what are all the permutations that could lead to X or lead to Y? But now you've got a situation that can't really lead to anything other than you just have to like wash your hands of it and move away. A, you don't even know what the situation is with Barber. And B, Blanchfield, it's not like she got like they fought for 30 seconds and she got a BS stoppage. You didn't even get that. You got nothing. You got a window into absolute nothingness. And so it's going to be hard for her to catapult. But trying to put this one back together, forget it. Just whatever can be made available, figure it out from there. Maybe it's the Natalia Silva #1 contender fight. Maybe Silva now gets it. Maybe one of them fights Zhang Weili. We shall see. But yeah, we don't need to worry about this part.
I mean, does it go without saying that for Maycee's health, for the credibility of the sport, you don't want to see her back into a fight until she really understands what's happening to her medically, so that for her own, the scare of her own health here, that we don't see her back until everything's figured out.
Yeah, there's no one wants to give up professional time when you have youth on your side in a combat sport. But if you're having these kinds of medical issues, A, ongoing, and B, as it was suggested by Blanchfield, potentially seizures backstage, dude, that's serious. These are the kinds of things that could affect the entirety of your life in very substantive ways. You must get an answer to this question. And maybe the answer is, BC, we figured this out and it's all controllable and you can go right back to it. We've seen fighters make seemingly miraculous comebacks, even with situations where they had, brain scans that didn't come up all that great. We just have to wait and see, but they must get to the bottom of it first.
It feels like there's something missing looking at Erin's reaction, because I get the competitive anger and I prepared for this, and because of you, I don't get to take a step ahead in my career, which is what this was supposed to be about. Maybe even up to and including securing a title shot. Although we said coming in, I felt like it was a little bit of a longer road for Blanchfield than Barber, but we can argue that. But from the standpoint of what we don't know, did it sound to you at all, based upon how, again, cold-blooded Blanchfield's comments were, that maybe she knows a little bit more than she's saying about Maycee? That maybe
I don't think so. No. What I would say is, let's take a more common scenario, BC. How many times have you seen a big grudge match, or really any kind of fight, but let's say there's a little bit of bad blood on the line, and then one of the opponents misses weight, right? And then not only do they miss weight, but then because of the missed weight and the process that they had to put themselves through, even though they missed the weight, they now, they have a medical ailment the next day, and then the fight gets scrapped. We've seen it a million times, right? So, I mean, think about it. If now she got, apparently, again, KO rep said that Blanchfield's going to get her show and her win money, which is great. But remember, she was entitled to more than that. If she had won, she'd be entitled to show, win, and was it 20 or 30% of Barber's purse? She doesn't get that either.
And performance of the night, if you can get that too, and everything that comes.
So, but what I'm saying, it's a number of ways in which she's kind of negatively affected here. But under that consideration, you would still have a degree of sympathy for the fighter who had a medical issue. But then you could say, hey, man, you got sick the next day after missing weight because you are unprofessional and you didn't make weight, right? You didn't do the work necessary to put yourself in a position not merely to win, but to even get to the octagon. Your own unprofessionalism cost you. In those scenarios, that kind of cold-bloodedness that you're seeing there from Blanchfield seems to me totally normal. To me, what's missing is this is something of a pattern, and maybe, BC, maybe, we don't know, and I don't want to unfairly speculate, but certainly it seems not only is there merely a pattern involved, but that could there be escalating issues in other ways? Again, a series of deep and serious unknowns that have to get answered here, and in those situations, it actually inverts it, less about Barber's preparation and more about her suffering from whatever ailment is causing these complications.
Luke, let's tie this into the bigger picture. And I want to say, unfortunately for the UFC, is another big notch on the negative belt of the direction we're heading in 2025, where again, it's not just you and me and people in the know, what's the word you want to talk about? Complain about where UFC is headed, the soullessness, the money first on everything, all of that. But then again, even though this isn't directly related to being UFC's fault, they also are not doing the type of things that would put them in a good light right now. So is it inevitable that you have to sort of link this, even though it's not the UFC's fault, with the continued downward trend of the court of public opinion's, PR state of where UFC's at right now, where again, it's not just you and I'm seeing, and same thing, by the way, with what's going on with WWE and how angry fans are increasingly getting with TKO. Do you think this is another giant negative feather in the cap of, we have a major problem here in combat sports and mixed martial arts and TKO land, and it's only continuing to build negative apathy with the fans?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. But let's try and make the case as clearly as we can. First of all, what we have to say is, let's actually start with a bit of good news, BC. From this point forward, the rest of June, assuming, and I'm going to knock on wood here, assuming things stay relatively intact, the month of June should be incredible. You have UFC 316 coming up. You have Buckley versus Usman coming up. You've got International Fight Week coming up. And you've got the show in Baku, Azerbaijan, headlined between Khalil Roundtree and Jamal Hill, right? So you've got an exciting month ahead. We already know UFC 318's got a big main event, as does UFC 319. There's a lot to look forward to, and it appears like the calendar might be really finally heating up. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, obviously, with this situation happening, that by itself is not the fault of the UFC. And in fact, to the extent that there's any promoter in the MMA space that's doing advanced medical screening, it's going to be the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And that's just a reality, right? So there's that as well. But here's what I did want to say. There is some speculation about whether Saturday's fight card is the worst one in UFC history. And I think you can actually make a legitimate claim that it is. And even if you don't want to make that claim, you can very much make the claim that it's the most irrelevant card in UFC history. There's a big mistake that everybody makes. They when they look at the list of the fights or the events that are considered to be the worst in UFC history, and of course, even if it's a UFC event that's really bad by relative standards, that's going to be much better than, virtually almost anything any other promoter can make, right? So when we say worse, we are grading on a curve here, okay? But I do think it's because there were finishes on that fight card. There were some good fights on that fight card. It's not like they were bad fights in and of themselves, but that's why I'm calling it the most irrelevant fight card in UFC history. UFC 33 is kind of considered to be the worst one in UFC history because they had a bunch of big fights planned for it. They all went to a decision, such that in the main event between Tito Ortiz and Vladimir Matyushenko, they went over their time that they were allowed to be on pay-per-view, and it cut out in the middle of the fight. It was considered a disaster. This was the first big event under the Zuffa leadership. This was a huge, huge mess, and it sort of went in time as like ways not to book a card and all the things that could have gone wrong. But this is my point. In one of these situations where, people think like the worst UFC event is just going to have all bad fights, but it's actually one where it has like a lot of either irrelevant fights that, just don't end up delivering, and then some kind of calamity affecting it on top. That's kind of what this one is. This one had some decent action, to be clear, but it didn't have anything beyond the co-main, which ended up being the main in Ludovit Klein and Gamrot, that had much stakes for any division, maybe Ketlin Vieira, but even then they had to go up a weight class. There was numerous weight misses. There were numerous fights that fell out right before the fight. And then it didn't even have a main event ultimately in the end. It produced, by UFC standards anyway, BC, the most irrelevant kind of MMA, and didn't even have a main event in the end. If there's a more irrelevant UFC card than this one, I am struggling to identify which one it could be.
Well, that's well said right there. And it's the same night, by the way. We'll get into it deeper, but it's the same night that they announce what we all thought was coming, that UFC Noche will not happen in Guadalajara. It'll no longer even be a pay-per-view. We'll get into that. It's just a bad time. Let's throw to this fan tweet, which kind of sums up the apathy for this card in general. Here's from Val Dewar at the 3 L's. 11 fights scheduled. 9 fights actually happened. 3 weight misses. 2 medical issues canceling fights outside of the cage. The main event got canceled. 3 finishes, 1 by KO. One of the more violent sustained injuries was the one with a women's feather. What was it? What the hell does that say, Luke? WFLW?
Women's flyweight?
Women's flyweight, who is as much an influencer as fighter. I mean, that's as harsh as you could get. It's also not wrong. So, look, is there any part of you that believes, although we know that there's no Apex cards in June, there's 2 in August back to back. They are doing what? Construction on the facility.
That's right.
In hopes of improving the amount, the everything, the amenities, the amount of people that can watch. Is this enough of a negative blow? Because we've been talking about that in the timeline of lately. When the fans in London were pissed off about the ticket prices and the lack of big names, is that the first sign that maybe, things are changing in a negative direction and could force change? Do you think this horrific ending to a already bad card with bad circumstances is enough maybe where they're going to go, we can't do this anymore? We can't put out these shitty fight night cards in a warehouse. That's not going to change anything.
They love making money. The guys at TKO love making money, and these cards help them make money. But it just goes to show, like, one point I didn't make in my last comment, BC, is like, listen, I don't know what card would be just fine losing its main event, right? I mean, virtually any card is going to be, to a degree, ruined by losing the main event. Some are going to be more resilient than others, obviously, but it's a big deal. So in that sense, like, losing the main event, like, you can be very forgiving of the card in that sense. But the problem is, one, if I had to tell you that the most irrelevant UFC card of all time took place in this era, would that in any way be surprising? Probably not. Probably not. And then more broadly, it's like, dude, these Apex cards, they just have their bare bones. You know what I mean? Like, they're not filled out. So yes, again, losing a main event is a huge problem, but that's not all they lost. And, you take a couple of pieces away and all of a sudden it's just a complete different animal. I mean, that was Mateusz Gamrot, Ludovit Klein are good fighters, and maybe there's a couple of the ones you could throw in there, but that was basically an LFA card. It was basically an LFA card, which, by the way, LFA is a good promotion. You can see good fights on LFA, but that's not the highest tier. It's a pretty far. I just want to remind you,
we are in the season of negotiation for a new broadcast deal in which the UFC has stated their goal is to get $1 billion per year to triple the value of their current one. This is the timeline that we're running leading into that. It's insane to me, Luke. It's
not good timing, but, like, again, unless, I mean, this is the problem. Like, you just don't have an alternative. Like, if you are a fan and you're like, I'm going to take my MMA dollars elsewhere, dude, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're just.
I'm going to take my dollars to PFL South Africa, whatever channel that.
Hey, they're in Nashville next week, which is not a bad place to be. But yeah, to your point, like, what are you going to do? You're going to go give your money to PFL? Like, it's nonsensical. So,
Luke, I was debating to myself which topic you would be less interested in talking about on today's show. So I figured I would just give you the 2 topics, and you can pick which one you were less interested in talking about. Are you ready?
All right.
The negative effect of breast implants on women's MMA, or Big John McCarthy's story about John Jones sexually assaulting a commission member in the locker room before a fight.
Boy, this is truly the Sophie's choice of MMA questions here. Can I just put a gun in my mouth instead? Can I just do that?
That's too far. That is too far. I don't accept that. Wow. I don't know how to transition out of that into an ad read, Luke. So maybe I'll just take 5 seconds to pause here. Wow.
What did you drop?
Wow. All right. Hey, by the way, folks, now's a good time to remember where tequila's story truly began in 1795. Cuervo invented tequila. And since then, let me tell you, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. We're talking about the same family, the same land. Yeah, the same passion as well. 230 years later, Cuervo still here, by the way, in every pour, in every margarita, in every celebration. So enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And 2 days from now, 11 a.m. Eastern, in the Meadowlark studio, pregame preview, UFC 316, brought to you by Cuervo. BCLT, Aaron Bronstetter. Luke, I'm going to get down on the Blanco, if you know what I mean. And I'm fired up about this pregame preview because it's my favorite vehicle that we have right now to drive. You know
it's going to be great. As we said, we're going to have Abron with us here in studio. And like I said, dude, for as bad as Saturday was, and it was quite remarkably bad, the rest of the month looks great. The rest of the month looks.
I mean, the
great.
summer headliners are very good too, right?
So I'm happy to just walk forward. Yeah.
And John Jones did say in some public thing that he won't announce the Espinal fight, Luke. The UFC will.
I don't care about him anymore. I just genuinely don't care.
I'm still wondering about his 20s, Luke, but his 30s have been a lot worse. A lot worse, to be fair.
His 20s have been worse.
I don't know. The headlines in his 30s, Luke, they've been pretty damn bad. Okay.
They've been bad.
Okay. All right. I mean, who'd you rather be? John?
Let's move on. I don't want to talk about this
I don't
guy
want to talk,
bro. He's so
Is there any
fucking
other
boring.
topics Luke doesn't want to talk about. Probably just tattoo. All right.
Yeah, you're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about potential gay sex acts or sexual harassment in the workplace. And I'm like, yeah, we can skip both of those.
Okay. Hey, let's go to topic number 2. It's the rest of UFC Fight Night for what there was inside the Apex in terms of, advancements, storylines, breakout performances, Luke, in that co-main event, which became the main event. On paper, this was contender Mateusz Gamrot looking to stay busy and hold his own spot in contention against unranked but rising Ludovit Klein. And over 3 rounds, boy, did we see that dominant wrestling ability, an increased, I think, urgency with the striking at times, even though it was grappling heavy. But even when he had Klein down, he reined it on in terms of the ground and pound. So, Luke, considering Klein's calling card coming in was that plus 90% takedown percentage, to see Gamrot just absolutely control, dominate, and outclass, was this win impressive enough to do more than just hold serve in this division and maybe lift old Matty Gamrot to a much bigger fight here atop this?
I don't think so. Well, he'll get a bigger fight after this. Yes, he got to win. There are available people. There are good fights to make. He's a good test for certain kinds of fighters. Yes. And I did notice him open up a little bit more with strikes this time, although that was mostly because he had better control of Klein, and therefore he was able to open up with his strikes. But this was not one of those fights that I watched and I was like, oh, wow, like he's reborn. This is everything that I wanted to see. Now, again, he's coming off of a loss and a very, I think, difficult one to accept, although a real one, against Dan Hooker. And so he, getting the W was the most important thing. But I don't know how you can watch this and be like, oh, now I need to rethink how he matches up with the rest of the division. He was already tough against any of those fighters, BC, but there's nothing in this fight where you're like, oh, now I need to reconsider what other threats he brings. It's more or less, maybe a little bit extra thrown in, but basically more or less what you knew about him before. And to your point, I'll give, listen, it sounds like I'm backing on Gamrot. I'm not. Klein came in with that more than 90% takedown defensive rate, and you would have not known that with the way Gamrot was handling him. That was pretty impressive. That was, this was, Gamrot made the point. We even talked about it on Friday's show, BC. We even said, like, we looked at the names that he's 90% above against. It's like, yeah, but none of these guys wrestle like Gamrot. Well, sure enough, Gamrot's a different level. It's not to say he's not high level, BC. He's high level. He's a very, very good fighter. But I just don't know how you can look at this and come away with the conclusion that, like, there's something else being added beyond what we basically already knew about him.
True. Klein did have a 7-fight unbeaten streak coming in. He was surging, even though, as we just said, this was basically a fight to hold Gamrot's place, and it became the main event, unfortunately, after it already ended in a lot of ways. But it was Gamrot at least holding serve and showing us that in his early 30s, he's trying his best to put the full game together. He does have an impressive record. He does have victories over very key contenders in this division, including Arman Tsarukyan. So in terms of who he wants next, let's let Gamrot tell us himself.
I can change Beniat Sandani nickname. He has nickname Good of War, but I can change this nickname my good of Comfort Zone. Because, bro, he got the offered fight with me 1 week before. Many times he call out me like, hey, I want to fight with Gamrot. He gets opportunity and he say no, bro. What the fuck? Good of Comfort Zone.
Is that a fight that you hope to happen? Like, do you want that fight to happen in Paris, Abu Dhabi, somewhere else? Like
I think Paris, his hometown will be good. Like another time, I will be myself against everybody. No problem. He's big name in French, so if I get my even 5 rounds with him, I will enjoy this time This is like September, right? This is 3 months later. Perfect timing. I back to home, I rest, then I back to Florida, prepare. This give me this guy.
So look,
Hell
even
yeah.
though I love this fight on paper, the idea of Gamrot against the good of comfort zone.
Oh, don't be mocking his accent.
I'm just relaying what he said. He is ranked number 7, Gamrot. He just beat an unranked fighter, and now he's going to wants the number 13th ranked fighter in BSD, who I do agree is better than his ranking. Is that the right call, or should he be looking into that top 5 and saying, hey, Gaethje, hey, whomever, let's get, hey, Sarukian, I beat you, yet you've lapped me. Let's do it again.
I mean, if he's calling out the BSDs of the world, he probably has an idea that he needs to get the matchmakers on his side. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you fight BSD? Well, because you know he's going to bring it. It's going to be action-packed, and he'll probably bring it in the way in which it will accommodate Gamrot's existing style, which means he'll get an exciting fight against a known contender that's respected, and he'll probably win. So that makes a lot more sense to me than just being like, hey, I beat a guy on the most irrelevant card in UFC history. Can I have a title shot now? You know what I mean? Like,
did you like the swagger though in the post-fight interview? I'm going to guess you had the volume down, but he was almost doing like a shtick, like, yeah, let's go. I've take on anybody. Like he was kind of trying to show some riz, if you will, some
Rizzler. Is that what the kid does, or is it like this? I can't, you know.
There's this, and then you got to do this along the fat line, Luke.
Oh, you got to do the throat slash.
Yeah, right. Well, it's like I don't know if it's
that's where he tells his servants to tie his bib, like right.
By the way, the Rizzler had a question with his name as the answer on Jeopardy in the past week. Did a collab with Elmo. Meanwhile, the Costco guys are still like debating how much money they'll spend on their Costco trip and interviewing shoppers. Like they have this just one's a runaway.
Wow, I can't believe guys whose personalities are deals at Costco didn't have staying power in any way in terms of public relevancy. How could that be a thing?
All right. Well, Gamrot's trying
also,
to
the Rizzler's going to die of type 2 diabetes. I mean, what are we talking about?
All
here?
right.
He's not?
Didn't you also say that that Big AJ was going to Benoit down the stretch? I mean, what are we doing here, right? And
Big AJ. Oh yeah, he was going to Benoit him up. I mean, he might. You never know. But
okay, all right. I mean, BJ Penn got arrested 3 times in a few days, Luke, and this is
6
really
days.
sad.
Yeah.
How do we end up here? I don't know. But hey, Gamrot, nice win, Luke. When we look up and down the rest of this card,
No, this is where we got to. This is where we got to bring in main card minute aficionado. I want to hear him. I want to hear him spin this one up.
Oh, I'll spin it for you. I mean, Jordan Levitt looked great against Kurt Hollabaugh. Got a nice sub there.
He did look nice. I'll admit.
Ramiz Brahimaj choking Billy Ray Goff unconscious.
Yes.
That was pretty sick.
And he had a great, very inspiring post-fight speech.
Very inspiring. Yeah.
New York's own Dustin Jacoby also knocked out Bruno Lopez. That was a fun fight.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think much of the opponent in this case, but Dustin Jacoby's doing great.
I will say, it's a bad card because I was having trouble figuring out who they were going to give the bonuses to, and not because there were too many things to choose from. There were too little. We only had 3 finishes, so you can't do 4 performance of the nights, and there was no fucking fight of the night on this card. I don't care what anyone says.
No, there was definitely no fight of the night. Why do you think Jacoby didn't get a bonus?
I don't know, and I was actually
because he's a mid-carder.
He had the fucking only TKO stoppage on this whole thing.
I know.
They gave it to Levitt, Brahimaj, and then they gave fight of the night to Ardelian Dos Santos, which I don't think deserved it.
I don't mind that because it rarely does the very first fight on a card ever get fight of the night. And so the one time that it does. But this is what I mean, dude. If you're giving fight of the night to the fucking curtain jerker, holy shit, man. You must have been suffering for greatness out there,
Hey, Luke, Brahimaj had been trading wins and losses over a 10-fight stretch and now has back-to-back finishes of Mickey Gall by KO and now the put him to sleep against Connecticut's Billy Ray Goff. When you pair that with the the inspirational speech he gave and that thick Bronx accent, should we be looking for him at welterweight, or was this the worst card of all time and it's time to move on? Your thoughts?
No, I mean, listen, it's a nice win. He dispatched an overmatched opponent very, very quickly. He did exactly what he was supposed to. It's hard to say what that means about his total upside, but nice wins, nice speeches. They get you noticed and it moves him up the chain. Let's see what he can do next. But good win, and you can't just say not all these wins mean so much about the next one, at least from the outside looking in. And this is one of those cases.
All right. Speaking of Dustin Jacoby and his light heavyweight tilt against Bruno Lopes, which lasted just a few minutes, Luke, he did say afterwards, now with 2 consecutive knockout victories over prospects, that he wants to be looked at as a contender and not just a veteran sort of gatekeeper tough out. Is this enough to begin that transition where UFC starts to match him against, more willing live bodies in the rankings?
For Dustin Jacoby?
Yes.
So he had that bad loss against Reyes. And then since then, he's put together 2 good wins in a row. I think that's right.
Yeah, he's 37. It was the Reyes knockout in the first round, which was right after a loss to Alonzo Menefield. And it was in a stretch where he dropped 4 losses in 5 fights.
Right, but he's had 2 good stoppages in a row. I mean, I think he's good for action. It's hard to say exactly what he is beyond that. Remember, Dustin Jacoby was one of the original guys who did the Road to Glory series. They were trying to find American kickboxers, and he went and had, I think, a modicum of success there, certainly. But he's back in MMA, and I think it definitely leveled up his striking. How good he is ultimately in the division, BC, is a little hard to tell. And probably, we've probably seen the highest of the upside, but he's putting together a nice win streak. He is reliable for action. He doesn't, he doesn't put on boring performances. He tends to, give you what he has. Keep him busy, as far as I'm concerned. All
right, Ketlin Vieira at women's bantamweight missed weight, forfeited 25% of her purse. They had to make it a 145 bout against Macy Chazon, and Vieira dominated with grappling for the most part, and then celebrated like she won the Super Bowl. But do we cut her at the legs because she missed weight here, Luke?
Yeah, we do. You got to make weight. Sorry. I mean, no. Got to make weight.
And did Jordan Levitt, who did put that anaconda choke on Kurt Holoball and put him to sleep in round 1, did he walk in terms of in-cage twerking so that Eileen Perez could run, Luke?
Yeah, I'm a little sick of the twerking. Can I be honest?
Okay.
Like all the way
in general,
around.
with all Latin women or just with UFC fighters?
Just with UFC fighters. Okay. Yeah, it's a little much.
If your Shakira tickets had come through, there'd be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be crying about that, but you know, I've had enough of it in the cage. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Anything else you want to say about UFC fight nights, Apexes, TV deals, BC whining and complaining that his second favorite sport sucks the horn this year? Anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll put that behind us here and let's transition into topic number 3, which just might continue the trend I was just talking about, or maybe it won't. Let's get Luke's opinion on this. Noche UFC, which was originally scheduled to be a pay-per-view card, UFC 320 on Saturday, September 13th in Guadalajara, despite constant rumors that the arena would not be finished its creation. And after so many concerts and other events were canceled, now we're seeing UFC slipping it in as an announcement during Saturday's Apex card that Noche UFC is moving from Guadalajara to San Antonio, Texas. It'll stay on the same day. It'll no longer be a pay-per-view fight. We don't know how that will change the matchmaking. Remember, it appeared as if a Volkanovski rematch with Yair Rodriguez was going to be rushed into place, not because it was earned or desired, but because of the Mexican connection. But Luke, a lot changes here, and it does connect, by the way, with all of the still unknown issues related to Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White and TKO Boxing. This opens up, a can of worms on that. But let's get into this actual thing. According to UFC's own message, it appears now that it's not a pay-per-view, as I mentioned. Was this the right call for the UFC, considering everything going on from the arena to the unknown about Canelo-Crawford on the same night? Is this the right move for the UFC, given that?
This is a blessing. They lucked out with this. Now, put the UFC's message up here because I want to make sure we're talking on the same kinds of terms, if you can, Long Island Luke. This is what they wrote via tweet. The 3rd annual Noche UFC will now take place at the Frostbank Center in San Antonio, Texas on September 13th. That is that Saturday. The Noche UFC Fight Night card will celebrate and honor the remarkable, and listen to what they wrote here, the Noche UFC Fight Night card will celebrate and honor the remarkable contributions of Mexican fighters to combat sports and continues UFC's great tradition of holding an event around Mexican Independence Day. Okay, as BC indicated, well, I'm sure we'll get to in a minute, there is, of course, what does this mean for Dana White now and TKO and Canelo-Crawford and all that kind of stuff. But putting that to the side, BC, just on the MMA side, UFC should be grateful about this. They actually caught a break, in my view. We keep talking about how they're making content that are making events along lines that are designed for maximum revenue generation or a broader revenue strategy where we're going to go to places when they pay us to go in this sort of highest bidder government contracting sense, rather than taking fights to cities where that fight makes sense for that city. But here you have a situation, BC, where now it appears by the UFC's own language, it's not a pay-per-view. So you don't have to make Volk versus Yair 2 a fight that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You don't have to do that. Now you can make Yair versus Diego Lopez a fight that makes sense and is absolutely perfect for this main event of this card. And San Antonio, Texas has a vast Mexican-American population, as we all know. So the card will
give me Chihuahuas in the co-main too, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a ton of stuff you can do. So you are relieved of that pressure. And as you indicated before, BC, now because it's not a pay-per-view, you can then shift your focus for September to a different card where you can now put on a proper pay-per-view event. And I'm sure they had to shuffle some things around, but I'm saying the fact that they got to move it out of Mexico is neither here nor there necessarily. But the fact they got to downgrade it from a pay-per-view to a fight night card gives them the flexibility they need to do this event correctly.
It took an arena not being ready that journalists from Mexico had told the UFC, including David Shaw, the head of international there that comes out to speak in Dana's spot. But even though this is the best choice for them, their hand was forced in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't select it this way. They obviously selected it to go to Mexico, and they were warned that this was going to be a problem. We should play this. So, like, Rodrigo Del Campo, you can put the tweet up first, and I'm saying it like a gringo, but, you know, there's Rodrigo. He asked a question. We'll listen to it in just a second. In March, he tried to tell them that the event in Guadalajara, I asked about assurances for their date because of delays. Remember, we heard about the venue. Was told they didn't appreciate that line of questioning. All right. Now, let's go back to that day, April 21st, when he asked David Shaw about it, and this is how it went.
Questions?
Hi, Dave. Rodrigo del Campo from Claro Sports here.
Hello.
Obviously, a great announcement. The announcement of Guadalajara. Dana, in this room last year, said that he was looking forward to the arena being finished and going to that arena. Yet, the arena presents a 1 month delay today. There were a lot of concerts booked between February and March and April. What are the assurances that the promoter and the arena have given you for your date to be reserved for the pay-per-view?
I mean, we've been in constant contact with them, enough so to be able to announce tonight. If we weren't confident, we wouldn't be announcing the fight.
Perfect. Your broadcasting partner now in Mexico, Fox Sports Mexico, has been going through a downfall in the last few months. They're being sued in the U.S. by CONCACAF. They've lost Premier League, FA Cup. They had an issue with the NFL due to lack of payment. It's been kind of difficult. They've been almost sold to the Murdoch family again. What is your current relationship with Fox Sports Mexico?
Strong. If you saw front row tonight behind the Octagon Dana's section, front row and Dana's section, we had a number of executives from Fox Sports Mexico. The relationship that we've had with them has been nothing but excellent. They've been firm supporters of the UFC for a very long time. They invest heavily in content. They, build profiles of our athletes. They help promote our events. They've been great partners for us. Have read a number of things in the newspapers about the status of their business here in Mexico, and they've given us assurances that, we go through the end of year with them, and there'll be no disruption to the UFC and Fox Sports Mexico partnership through 2025.
And just one.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird here, Luke. They may have dodged a bullet, but their hand got forced. People get upset that we don't always have like all the hard details on here. UFC doesn't speak publicly on stuff. They've gone quiet for a while on a lot of this big ticket information. It felt like this was something that could have been seen coming, but maybe, like you mentioned, Luke, taking it off pay-per-view, not forcing a matchup that isn't necessary, it will be a blessing in disguise. But this does coincide with a few things here. Lance Pugmire of Boxing Scene did put out a story on Saturday that basically said, look, we're all waiting for news on whether Canelo-Crawford is still going to be a Turki Al-Sheikh / TKO Global Dana White production. But according to Lance's reporting, this development does open up back the idea that the two could work together still on that same date, September 13th in Las Vegas, to put on Canelo versus Crawford. what do you make of this? Because you did have Canelo Alvarez coming out in Spanish at a press conference in the last week saying he was the one who told Turkey, we can't do this on Friday. My fans are coming in from Mexico. They need to be able to come in on Saturday to see it. Also, Canelo said in that same interview that he told Turkey he's not fighting anymore in Saudi Arabia. It has to be in the U.S. Will we now see Dana, in your eyes, and Turkey partner together, or is it still too unknown at this point?
Yeah, that one's still too unknown. I don't exactly understand how they can get that one back together. I mean, I guess if it's a fight night and not a pay-per-view, there's less pressure on Dana to be there is the idea. And also you're not trying to grow the Mexican market as much if you pull out from there. I mean, I'm sure they still are more broadly, but I'm saying on that night they're not. They're putting it back in San Antonio. So, I guess it relieves Dana of having to, even though they're on the same day, does he have to prioritize the UFC event at all times if it's a fight night? This is what I mean about if it's a pay-per-view, even then he could still prioritize Canelo-Crawford over it, but it makes it a little bit harder, especially if you get your pound for pound or, one of the top pound for pound guys in the sport competing on it. But if it's a fight night card and none of those concerns are in play, then who gives a damn? Just do whatever you want. It certainly frees it up in that sense.
I think you've got to say here that the choice of changing from pay-per-view to fight night feels aggressively like it's opening up the door to go head-to-head. Dana said he wouldn't go head-to-head with a pay-per-view. This feels like they're throwing a bone back to maybe and I don't know if it'll end up on Netflix. I don't know if Canelo-Crawford will ever be as big as they say it will be, because right now it's only a few months away and there's no date, no network, no site, and really not a lot of buzz going on to it. But this does feel like that opens the door, and maybe this TKO boxing thing is still alive. So
yeah, I mean, people wanted to make the big deal to be that it went from Mexico to Texas. That's not the big deal. The big deal is that it got downgraded from pay-per-view to fight night. That opens up a range of new possibilities that they just were kind of locked into before.
Well, dude, this is a weird year, man. This is a really
This is the strangest fucking time in combat sports that I've maybe ever seen. And I mean that very sincerely.
I mean, I've seen some really bad years where it's just the money wasn't coming in for combat. Yeah, there's some big fights, but it's just the momentum is down. This is much deeper because obviously look at the cross-pollination between Turkey kind of controlling boxing, but we've got questions whether he'll, pair with TKO and everything going on. The apathy in general for everything is as low as possible. Boxing's going to enter a kind of a dark month here in June. I hope we pull out of this. Okay, Luke.
Yeah, well, don't worry, BC. I'm told that monopolization only leads to good things. So,
dude, do you know though that just real quick on this, okay? The WWE let R-Truth go yesterday, a long-time performer who, yes, is 55 years old, but is like this long-term, fan-friendly, comedic character, locker room giant. And this is, I think that's the bridge too far. The amount of backlash I'm seeing now on social media against TKO for specifically how much their, value extraction model removes the soul from all the things we love. Dude, WWE fans are unhappy and not backing down. Luke, why are we not getting that same response from MMA fans? I don't know. It's wild. It's as if they're like, yeah, this is fine. I'm cool with where we're
Dude,
at.
I see people every time there's one of these cards that's super irrelevant, and people are like, who's going to watch this card? And I'll read the comments, and half the comments are, it sucks, but I've got nothing else going on in my life, and I don't watch TV or movies or, I guess interact with friends. And therefore, this is the only thing. I told you, there's a certain kind of person that's become, it's probably sports wide, actually, to be honest with you, but certainly you can see it in combat sports that have this passive relationship of baby bird being fed constantly. It's a dopamine hit. On social media, you're just constantly looking for new tweets, constantly looking for new posts on IG, so you can get this constant stimulation rather than having a life. You know what I mean? It's actually, honestly, it's kind of sad.
It is. And do you know how many people are like, BC, you're way too harsh on Saudi and TKO. Why don't you want them in boxing? They're going to make huge fights. Check the temperature of what's going on in MMA and pro wrestling right now. Just check it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's great for boxing that the biggest fight in the last several months has been Caleb Plant, Armando Resendiz. I'm sure that's a great thing for boxing.
More like Resendiz nuts, Luke. I couldn't fit that into the broadcast on Saturday.
I see you. There was a couple of ones you had.
I had an off night. No.
You didn't. You called. First of all, you called Cornflake a fucking Connecticut legend, which I was like, get the fuck out.
No, I called Willie Pep a Connecticut legend. Cornflake's from New Jersey. It was in
No,
reference
that's right. Because Morrow then called you a Connecticut legend. I
Yes.
was like, Morrow, you're really reaching here, motherfucker. You had another one during that Cornflake fight. I forget what it was, and I was like, wow, dude, he almost got fired for that one.
No, there was no almost got firing. There were like 2 moments where I attempted to bring in a zinger at the wrong time as there were developments in the fight, so it made me look like an asshole, and I deserve it. Look, I deserve it.
I don't know about that, but no, I'll go back and find it. But you had another one. I was like, wow, he's really reaching.
I don't think it was really that. But
no, who did you say? You said Racendiz looked like Mario Lopez. I was like, that's quasi racist, but that's all right.
How is that quasi racist when Mario Lopez then tweeted out from the broadcast of me saying that as he was celebrating?
I know. Hey, look, I get it. To someone like you, they all look alike. I understand. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, this guy. Wow. I mean, why don't I just come back with this, Luke? Okay,
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
Tell him, Zoe. All right. Hey, Luke, let's go to topic number 4, which was the surprising big developments in Saturday's PBC on Prime video boxing card, of which, yes, your boy BC was on the call. And in that main event, we thought this card was a setup to take us to a Caleb Plant versus Jermall Charlo grudge match. And by the way, we still could be on the road to that despite the results. But Caleb Plant, despite being a heavy betting favorite, came up empty against an Armando Resendiz who was determined, moving up in weight, and really never said die. Now, Luke, Resendiz was known for his pressure fighting. He came in this time, though, a very relaxed demeanor. He actually boxed, increased the pressure over time. And unfortunately for Caleb Plant, the one big negative in his game, the fact that he does fade late against pressure fighters, really came into play here. It goes down in the end as a split decision win for Resendiz, even though 8 rounds to 4 seems to be the general opinion of most, including the scorecard that I have as well. How bad of a loss in your eyes is this for Plant? And at age 33, is it enough to question whether not only his best days are behind him, but with the second child on the way, there's some whispers of people saying maybe he should be done. Maybe this should be the beginning of the end. Do we overreact for a guy who's only fought once a year in recent years? How did you respond to Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, this was a weird one. First of all, the fight itself was actually pretty good.
Very competitive. Yeah.
Caleb Plant is, usually not in bad fights. Like, they're fun fights one way or the other typically. And actually, this might have been the most enjoyable fight all weekend, MMA or boxing, depending on your perspective. But, it certainly was the co-main event to me on that card was, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I have mixed feelings, BC, and I wonder if you do too. On the one hand, when I went back, because I didn't see the fight live, and I had seen all the reactions, so I was like, all right, let me go watch it. I watched it last night on the couch, and I'm looking at Plant through the first 4 rounds, and I'm like, how did he lose this fight? And it's like, oh, right. Well, after the first 4 rounds, everything basically changes. But even late into the fight, BC, he didn't look slow. He didn't look like he was laboring with his movement. You know what I mean? He still had some snap to him, but he just seemed like his skills declined. And maybe that's because they had a bad camp. Maybe because it was a short camp. Maybe they didn't really plan properly for what Resendiz could offer them. But like a couple of things, BC, Caleb Plant until the latter third of the fight couldn't keep his hands up and kept getting tagged with right hands from Resendiz as a consequence. And I'm like, I know he does the low thing because he likes to go low to high with the jab. And he's got that kind of shoulder roll, half Philly shell style, but it wasn't working against a guy with that kind of forward pressure. That was the first thing I noticed. Also, BC, and I went back and I looked at this. I don't think he threw anything more than a 3-punch combo the entire fight.
Agreed.
Double jab, right hand, jab cross hook, you name it. He was never putting 4 and potentially 5 punches together. And in certain fights, maybe against Uzcategui, maybe against early in the fight against Benavidez, you saw him putting a little bit more into it. And in this one, he just seemed out of idea. So there's that. And then there's the last part, BC, which is, I don't know. I'm not a Resendiz historian. He looks like a tough guy, 26, clearly was ready for this opportunity. But in looking over some of his other fights, he did not look to me like a home run hitter of a puncher. And yet, Plant was just getting shook up by it. So it seemed to me that his skills just weren't where they needed to be for this fight for whatever reason. I don't know what happened to his punch resistance, and the combination of the two just made for a weird result.
It totally did. And Plant is 32, not 33, as I mentioned, but that doesn't necessarily change what we're talking about right here. The fact that now in his last 5 fights, he's 2 wins and 3 defeats. Understandable when you're talking about Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez. But Racing wasn't known for that. His biggest work he had done was at 160, even though he turned pro at light heavyweight and has fought as high as 183 pounds in the past. But I think the difference was he came in to win the biggest fight of his career, which he ended up pulling off. He brought an insanely large crowd from his hometown in Nayarit, Mexico with him. They completely dominated the weigh-in on Friday at the Mandalay Bay. They made their presence known on Saturday. Best shape of his career. But I think you got to give a lot of credit to trainer Manny Robles, who is, of course, world-class, for helping Racing not just be that aggressive guy who throws 20 punches more per round than the super middleweight average. He was patient. He knew, they had to know that if you can get Plant into the later rounds, that a lot of the constant movement Plant does, the circling away, he uses a lot of effort in a lot of his movements. And I do think it plays into a stamina dump down the stretch in fights that he's not controlling and dominating. We saw that in the losses to Canelo and Benavidez. We saw that in his breakthrough title win in 2019 against Uzcategui, where he really had to bite down in the final rounds. At 32, I don't think this is enough to say it's over. And I don't think it's enough to say Racing only look that great because Plant is no longer good. But to some degree, both things were true, and they gave us this result. You do have a lot of people saying, as I mentioned earlier, that Plant fought once in 2024, once in 2023, once in 2022, hasn't fought twice in a year since 2021. So is it that lack of consistency, building momentum? Was he just cold? Was he on a single night? Was he overlooking Racing because of all the talk for this big Charlo fight? Either way, it was eye-opening. It was alarming. Now, we can see the scorecards here. David Sutherland is certainly under fire, the third judge, who had it 115, 113.
That's insane that he gave the last 3 rounds to Caleb Plant. That's insane.
Dominated largely down the stretch. So, Caleb Plant really entered the championship rounds where he's known for fading in the worst spot, down on the cards on most people's eyes against Racing, and he wasn't able to rally. I think you're right on a few things you mentioned. One punch at a time, not going to work. He's not known as a big puncher, although under Breadman Edwards, he's been sitting down on his shots more. He turned to an inside style against McCumbee and knocked him out. But I think Racing was not there to be hit. And I think the fact that Plant threw every single punch at a time was because Racing was countering with combinations. And I think Plant realized that he couldn't stay in there against that power. But Luke, if you really want a detailed thing on what might have happened, there's an absolutely incredible interview with Stephen Breadman Edwards, the trainer of Caleb Plant, but known really more, right, if you read his Boxing Scene weekly column, as just a smart mind in this game. He gave one of the most candid interviews I've ever seen to a group of reporters, in which he said a few things, not just moving forward. Does he wish, if he stays with Caleb, that he could take Caleb from the beginning of the camp and have full control? I don't know if that's speaking to the idea that Caleb is co-trained by his father, Richie, and Caleb doesn't spend full time in training camp with Bread, right? They visit each other, but his dad also trains him. Maybe there's part of Breadman that isn't getting the message all the way through that he wants. But Luke, Breadman identified 2 things that were concerning. He said, one, Caleb's skin and reactions to punches from Racing that didn't actually appear to be that hard was concerning to him. That Plant wasn't necessarily showing the durability in the positive response in those moments. And then he also mentioned about the lack of output overall. We do have sound from Caleb Plant in which he, made it seem like it's kind of just one-off night. He thought he had an argument to win. Let's listen to Caleb Plant.
It was a great fight tonight, close fight. Felt like it could have went either way. But, it's live by the sword, die by the sword. And the judges seen it how they've seen it. And, I'm not the type to make any excuses. I left no stone unturned this camp, put it all in, paid a lot of money for camp, did a lot of work, a lot of running. And obviously I'm disappointed, but wanted to make sure I come out here and, said my piece, came to see you guys. And, I still getting a lot of love from the fans. And, I think I've earned their respect over the years. And obviously right now I'm just disappointed. So in life, I'm a winner. If you look at where I started, what I've been through and what I've had to accomplish to get here, it's taken a lot. And I feel like if anybody's the man for the job, it's me. So, like I said, I'll regroup with my team. We'll get right back to work. And I'm not easily discouraged, you know.
Two of boxing's biggest stars.
Luke, we know how mentally tough he is. With his own trainer talking about maybe the one fight a year thing, maybe, you know, he gets active, that this could turn around. I'm going to lean more towards one-off night, maybe not the best training camp, maybe partially overlooking the opponent, maybe the opponent performed better than we expected. But I'm not going to lie, from what I'm reading on the internet, which is a lot of people, from fans to connected insiders, basically saying they kind of feel like not only is the best of Plant behind him, but without being a power puncher for a style that's heavy on movement but staying in the pocket a lot, they don't see a sustainable future for him. I'm not going to go that far. After hearing him say, look, I don't discourage easily, I'll be back. Do you think fighting 2-3 times a year could get him back into the elite shape we expect there?
Yeah, but he's got to bring a better skill set. Again, I saw just better elusiveness against Canelo. Now, granted, that was 4 years ago. There's been some wear and tear on the the tread.
He took a beating against Benavidez, straight up. Took a beating.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good for the first 6 rounds, but the last 6 were terrible. I mean, the fact that he survived was remarkable. And dude, in the 5th round here, he got tuned up by Ray Sendiz. I mean, that was like, I was amazed he didn't go down from that, to be perfectly honest. I haven't seen him wobble that bad maybe since he fought David Benavidez, if we're being honest. So, you know, to me, it's like there's a lot of things that need to get tightened up. Again, the good news is, BC, he did not physically look shop worn in the sense of how well he could move and the speed at which he could move. That all looked pretty good. He still had some zip and pop in his legs, and that's what you want. But he didn't wear the punches well, and he did not have many either offensive or even defensive answers. And that's not going to be enough against even a diminished Charlo or whoever else in the division they can give him a fight against.
Yeah, let's see the clowning here from Edgar Berlanga, who's been in a constant feud with Plant, but they've been unable to sign a fight against each other. Berlanga putting out the Caleb Plant pack of buds there and weed, Luke. That'll, I guess, if you smoke that, you'll get, well, you won't get put to sleep. Plant didn't get put to sleep. He was competitive in a loss, but it certainly was a step back. Now, Luke, Jermall Charlo.
Yeah, I didn't think this fight was that competitive. I did not think it could go either way. I think 4 rounds is generous.
Okay, there's a difference when I say competitive between competitive on the scorecards means, in my eyes, it's that the judges were giving rounds either way, but it can be a 12-0 fight that's competitive within each round. Do you know what I'm saying? I thought it was the rounds were competitive, but he was losing them.
I never thought that Plant was getting abused, but I did not think that he was in it by round 9 or 10. I can assure you that.
Well, in that co-main event, Jermall Charlo handled his business, obviously, though, against a lower-tier opponent in Thomas Cornflake Lamana, who, since being one-punch KO'd by Arislandi Lara, did win 9 straight fights. They were on the regional circuit. Luke, this fight got lambasted coming in.
Yeah, it should have. This fight was stupid.
Yeah, it took a lot of hits afterwards, with Lamana just not being remotely on Plant's level. I'm sorry, on Charlo's level. But with that said, Luke, before we tie this into the future for a Plant Charlo matchup, were you impressed by what we did see from the 35-year-old Charlo, from the poise, the heavy jab that he's known for, and just in general? Look, it's not prime Jermall Charlo, but is this still a title contending Jermall Charlo in a new weight division at 168 in your eyes?
I don't think there's any way to really know. I mean, he had a little bit of loose change on him. He did not look to be in terrible shape. No, by any stretch. No, he did not look to be in terrible shape, but not traditionally good shape. He's traditionally looking, he traditionally looks a little bit leaner. He had a little bit of loose change on him. I'd say that first and foremost. Second of all, it's just really hard to know against an opponent of this quality. I mean, dude, Cornflake seems like a nice guy, but what the fuck was that fight? Like, he got dropped in the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, they were like, not all, I mean, what was the one? I think it was the one in the 4th or the 5th. It wasn't the first one. He literally, it was right on the ropes. He gets the shot. He gets his hand up. The punch hits the glove. It split it a little bit, but it mostly landed on the glove, and it still knocked him down. And I was like, okay, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, his legs were gone at that point. I mean, it wasn't.
No, I mean, it's like, did Charlo? And by the way, Charlo could have got him out of there much earlier, and I think wanted to get some rounds, which fine. But you're asking me to make like a declaration about what we can learn from there. It was nice to see him put together the pieces of something back together again, you know? But I don't know what to say beyond that. It's hard to put any of this into context.
Well, I'll give him credit. Look, getting back after the hell he's been through, mental health issues. He's talked openly about bipolar disorder in the past. He had a bad divorce. He had substance abuse issues. I mean, he went through hell and back mentally and physically. So to be back, that's great. To see the smile on his face afterwards, to see him speak a positive message about mental health, and especially in the African American community. Alan Dawson, our friend, had a great interview with Charlo coming in about how, there's a stigma against mental health, but it's specifically in that community. So to see Jermall speak out on that, all good stuff. And I think a lot of people came away going, look, he still got it. He still got something here. He's a fun fight for a lot of super middleweights moving forward, whether you're talking about Berlanga, Munguia, although he's got issues here, or maybe Caleb Plant. Now, according to Charlo, he did say that Plant dropped the ball. He also said, hey, even with that loss, I got to get my lick back. I still want that fight. Let's hear from Jermall Charlo.
This camp was amazing. I probably had too much fun this camp. But it's cool though, because that's what it's all about. Having fun, giving my all, working, and just staying focused. Talk to my mom every day. Talk to my brother, my peers, my friends. CC hit me up, Didi hit me up every day. Everybody that's just been really holding me down. I just want to say to my fans and my friends and people out there, if you ever going through something, the worst thing to do is hold it in. It don't matter who it is. Just talk to somebody about it, and that's the best thing you can do, and try to move forward. Just pray to God that, he could change the view on things in life, and that's kind of what I've been doing, and I've been battling with it. I know I just got a victory, and I got a victory maybe a year ago, and I've kind of been inactive, but my goal is to get more active. But, I'm still battling some things now, but it's not affecting me not to fight. As you can see, I went in there and still prevailed, and just wanted to tell you, I thank y'all for following me. Thank y'all for being there with me each and every step of the way. It's a journey, and I'm still working towards making myself better. I'm not perfect, but my record is.
Two of boxing's biggest stars.
Luke, what do you make of what he said? That while, yes, we can lambaste the idea of marination boxing. We've done it for years, going back to Yuri Urquis Gamboa and Juan Mal Lopez falling apart when they each took tune-up fights ahead of an expected clash. You can talk about what just happened in Times Square with Haney and Garcia. This was, I think, open to criticism whether Plant and Charlo should have just been fighting on Saturday night. I think you can offer that criticism. Does it kill the matchup, though, considering where they are in their age and considering that there is a real grudge between them with, Charlo pulling on the beard of Plant back in 2023 and them having that fight backstage at the Spence Crawford weigh-in?
I still think that they could make that fight. I even still think you could make Plant Munguia, or sorry, what am I saying, Munguia? Plant Berlanga. I think you could do either of them. Promotionally, I don't feel like he sank a lot of what there was there because, the reason why those fights are interesting can only be resolved by making the one fight the other, right? There's no real clear substitute that's just as good. I mean, there's a few different permutations of fights that are available, but there's a certain connectivity between X and Y, and so you have to kind of see what's up with that. None of that really got super displaced, but to me, it's I don't know who would have been the favorite, Plant or Charlo, before the weekend, BC. But now it's I don't know. I mean, Charlo's a big puncher, and to your point, his jab was heavy. And against a guy like Plant, if he can't wear the shots of Race Endies, you definitely can't wear the punches of Charlo. It makes me wonder how competitive it is. Not so much do I want to see it? Yeah, sure, I would still definitely see it. But my view of what it actually would mean has changed fairly significantly with just one weekend of fights.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough to speak on Charlo because we only have this one fight in the last 18 months, and it wasn't against a top-tier contender. But considering that he lost out on super fights with Canelo twice in the past 4 years, one where he wasn't ready, a second time where Canelo just chose a different opponent, if you look in your crystal ball, and we don't know if Canelo's going to lose the undisputed championship to Crawford or what's going to happen, but Canelo this week did say he wants to fight until he's 37. Do you think Jermall Charlo ends up getting the Canelo fight?
Oh, Jesus.
Does play into the type of opponents Canelo wants. Let's be fair, right?
Golly. I hadn't even thought about it. Probably because I hate the idea, then the answer is yes.
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't hate it if he puts together a couple wins and looks the part and
Yeah,
hopefully
but then
fights.
Canelo won't fight him. If he looks the part, Canelo won't fight him.
All right. Jermell Charlo was also in the ring celebrating with his brother, and I interviewed him quickly on the post-fight broadcast. Luke, I'm happy to say this. The Charlo brothers have been either each other's best friends and biggest motivators or the biggest enemy between the two of them over the years. We've seen them call each other out and I mean, we've seen some really, tough situations where they didn't talk to each other for a long time. Jermall said that Jermell is the reason why he's boxing again, that his brother was there for him day after day to help him. And I don't know if you saw Lance Pugmire's reporting over the weekend on Twitter. Golden Boy and PBC, according to Lance, are talking about potentially a comebacking Jermell Charlo at 154 against Virgil Ortiz Jr. Are you in or out?
I'm in. Yeah, I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a fun fight. That sounds like a really fun fight. And Ortiz looked really good against Madrimov. So, yeah.
Indeed. Also, to close here, Luke, PBC will be back July 19th as they officially announce their pay-per-view card on Prime Video. I was able to interview both Fundora and Zoo, who are going to rematch in the co-main event, Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios in the main event. And to round out that pay-per-view, as was teased, we're going to get Brandon Figueroa against Joet Gonzalez, which should be a brawl. And then a rematch of Pitbull Cruz and Angel Fierro from earlier this year. All things considered, even with Pacquiao at 46, Luke, and with me being a PBC homer, I got to say I'm excited for this card, and it should be really good. And I hope that it is continued momentum. Are you giving Manny any chance at this point?
I mean, you never know with the magic of pharmaceuticals, but in general, I don't give a shit about that fight. The rest of the card, as we said before, the rest of the card looks good. That main event to me is a joke.
Shout out to everybody involved. Interesting development, and we have another name now in Race NDs, Luke, who's going to be deserving of a big fight now. Has the interim belt there.
Just 26. Yeah, he's got a bright future.
Very interesting stuff. Luke, is a sequel better than the original? It probably depends on the franchise. I know Dune made one heck of a sequel, but we're going to find out if that's true this Saturday at UFC 316. Why? Because Merab Dvalishvili will defend that bantamweight title against former champ Sean O'Malley in a rematch 9 months in the making. The simplest way for you to get in on the action? How about this? How about win some real cash by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of UFC. It's crazy simple. You just pick more or less based upon the stats for two or more of your favorite fights. And boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. No gimmicks, no weird rules. Nail your picks and you're heating up. We're talking about basically over-unders here, amount of strikes landed, takedowns landed. You pick that situation for that fight, you've got a chance to win big. So Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Ready to put your UFC knowledge to the test? Here's what you need to do. All new Pick 6 customers will get $50 in bonus picks instantly with just a $5 entry. So, Luke, it's like looking up and down the card. Which matchup do you think could bring the potential of an early stoppage for big points? How about a fight that may go the distance in the end? Luke, when you look at this UFC 316 card that we're about to transition into getting ahead of here, there's more than a few options to have some fun here with Pick 6.
Just the main event alone, a guy Merab, he was a machine, but he's a bit of a decision machine. I would be very surprised if that one got stopped early, although one never knows, but it's certainly possible. Even in that co-main event, BC, I could see that one getting stopped early. I could see someone like Kayla Harrison racking up a lot of points in terms of what we're looking at here anyway for ground and pound, but at the same time, who knows? Someone like Pena Survivor can be quite resilient. But here's what you're going to do, folks. You're going to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use the code KOMBAT with a K. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. That's code KOMBAT with a K. Play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Ride the upside only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Luke, it's time for topic number 5, which is exactly what we're talking about here. UFC 316 this Saturday, Newark, New Jersey. Of course, 2 days from now, we're going to break down each matchup in painstaking detail with our pregame preview brought to you by Cuervo with guest Aaron Bronstetter. But for today, let's look at some of the biggest storylines entering this pay-per-view clash. And look, UFC needs a big weekend. All right, let's do it. So, Luke, I want you to name one fight, one fighter, one situation on this card that has you the most intrigued heading in to the first of 2 pay-per-view events we can expect as UFC fans in June. What is that one storyline that you're focused on?
The reformation of Sean O'Malley. So one of the reasons why people might be upset about this fight to a degree is not that people don't think Merab is good. Hello, he's the champion. Or even that O'Malley is good. Hello, he's the former champion. But that it happened within 10 months, which is not typically a long amount of time. Typically, for a rematch to be interesting in terms of some of the differences you could get with a second matchup, a couple of years or more need to go by before you get a real big difference. But I would actually say something interesting is kind of happening here. Sean O'Malley is maybe only having a 10-month difference, but he appears to be doing any number of major changes to the way in which he's operating, both in terms of training, physical health, as well as like personal health in a different way, not so much ailment, but centering his life, so that I think you actually are going to get something of a different Sean O'Malley. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that's a reason why he may win. You still have to kind of match up the X's and O's as best we understand them. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is I actually do think he's going to come into this with some different ideas about how to fight, with some different ways in which he prepped, and a different centeredness about self. And the reason why that's important, BC, is twofold. One, you actually he's giving himself, like, you remember he had a hip injury apparently, and he wasn't able to train the right way. And he I know we have some sound to this effect. He kind of made Merab the enemy in a certain way. He's changing enough things where you do have to reconsider his chances in a second fight. But here's the interesting part, BC. Either those changes are going to lift him to a new sense of success, right? This will work. Or he's going to be doing all of these things and the results won't be there. And what I've often seen in my career covering fighters who have done this kind of thing, where they've actually committed their life to change, and then the subsequent result doesn't yield that for them, they end up going through a bit of another journey as a consequence. Because what's happening is they're telling themselves, I'm the man. I couldn't show that I was the man that night, but with these changes, this can still help me to believe internally how much that I am the man. Something that young men and young women may not appreciate is you will tell yourself something about who you are for very long periods of time, especially if you're driven to go do things. And then eventually life may reward it, life may not. And if it doesn't, you then have to reconcile with how many things you have told yourself over the years that actually were not true. And when that's not true, who are you? And so it could lead to him going up to 45 BC. It could lead to him, maybe actually because of the positive health changes on a personal level, it won't matter. Like, he'll actually still be quite happy about who he's become through that journey. But this is what I want to say. When you go all in on these kinds of changes, it gives you the best chance at victory in a rematch. But the problem is, if those don't work, you have serious questions to answer for what you actually told yourself and how it's impossible to believe it going forward. And that could yield a bunch of different changes as a consequence. An interesting way in which this main event could yield a variety of outcomes.
No doubt about it. And this UFC 316 look ahead is brought to you by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of the UFC. Get unlimited data that won't slow you down. And Luke, when it comes to not slowing down the former champion, I have to agree. The storyline about him, no stone unturned, not jaying the peen. I mean, when he could Luke, the idea of him, what's the right term I'm looking for?
Masturbate?
No, what's that term when you recharge and refill the satchel and
I'm sure the sponsor loves this conversation.
Yeah, this is great. Anyway, here's the deal though. Luke, the history of people that have, because this has not been a tune-up fight from O'Malley in between or a bounce-back number one contender fight. He's going right from a title loss to directly, for him, an immediate rematch, and under circumstances where people, complained about whether he was truly deserving. Now you've got him absolutely going all in, as you mentioned, where the stakes are pretty high. If he loses consecutive title bouts, considering the star push he received, he's pretty much going to have to move up to featherweight, isn't he, Luke? Right?
He doesn't have to, but I wonder if he might be incentivized to. Yes.
And it might be a situation where he might be forced to really overhaul a lot of things in his career. So this is that all-in opportunity to regain what he had. And I do take into account a few things, the injury, the need for surgery that he had coming into the first matchup, whether elements of the sphere, affected him in ways that it didn't. Merab, all of these things. I'm excited to see where this goes because we're looking at one of the biggest potential stars in this game coming off a muted performance. Now you got to keep your back off the canvas against Merab. You've also got to hurt him ultimately. So this is more intriguing as we are just a few days out than I expected when this fight was first announced. But you mentioned we do have some sound from Sean O'Malley.
May I interject very quickly?
Please.
People are like, oh, he's doing the same thing that all fighters do. No, he's not. BJ Penn in the rematch for Matt Hughes, they asked him what he was going to do differently this time, and he goes, nothing. I'm going to go surfing. I mean, I remember this distinctly. He was like, I'm going to do absolutely nothing different. Like, there are fighters who are like, even if you lost, like, I still had the right game plan. I still had the right idea. It just didn't come together that night, blah, blah, blah. O'Malley's doing the opposite. He is trying in a short amount of time to overhaul a bunch. And whether it's enough, we'll see. It's a tough, tough fight. But if you overhaul a bunch and you still don't get there, it leaves you in a very strange place oftentimes. Sorry about that.
Refractory period. That's what we were thinking of, right, Luke?
No.
Well, he's not going to need that period this time, Luke. Anyway, let's go to some sound about a strange encounter O'Malley had.
The owl has been like, I randomly got this owl tattoo on my chest. I had a shitty tattoo right here and I didn't like it. I told the tattoo, I'm like, cover it up. He's like, what do you want? I was like, I don't know what would be there. He's like some kind of bird. He's like, you fucking tell me. He put an owl here. And now it's like, ever since it was the Peter Yan, for the first Peter Yan fight, I sit outside, watched the sunset. And like this owl came and flew and laid on this, or was sitting on this wood thing by me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was so scared to look up what that meant because I thought it was bad. Like, I'm like, "What if that's bad?"
I don't think I've ever seen an owl in my life.
Yeah, well, I looked it up.
Except for Harry Potter.
It was good luck.
You at 6 a.m. is like a fucking owl.
Actually, yeah, okay.
That's the only owl I've seen. But yeah,
but owls have been coming in and out of my life in a weird way, and I moved out to this other house, and I have a bunch of owls that live in these trees around me, so I see them quite often. 10 days before the Merab fight, there was a dead owl in my driveway, and I was like, that can't be good. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't want to think about that, but and it sounds crazy, but I was like, fuck, I just didn't feel like I was supposed to win that fucking fight.
He's in his own head. He's in his own head a little bit. This is what I mean. You see how he's like reinforcing any kind of positivity in there, because I wonder if there's like a real hardcore element of doubt that he's trying, like a flame he's trying to extinguish.
Like the invincibility in him was damaged, and
That's
now, maybe he is under a serious refractory period, just in a different way. You know what I mean? It's an interesting storyline just the same, but I do like what he says in this next clip about changing his mindset and how he looks at Merab. And we know how often in pro sports, or really in pickup basketball and anything, Luke, there's a small percentage of people that can play emotional, fight emotional, and benefit from that. O'Malley seems to be the opposite. Let's hear him.
Another thing, I just feel like that the second Cheeto rematch, there was like animosity. I really, truly wanted to beat the fuck out of him. Like, I felt like I really didn't like him at that time. And I had such a good performance. It felt so good. I was like, I'm going to carry that into the Merab. Like, I almost forced myself to not like Merab, but it wasn't like genuine. It was just like, so I felt like I forced that a little bit. And this camp, it's like, I have nothing against Merab. I'm going to go out there and compete because I love to compete. I'm an athlete. I'm a high level performer. I want to go out there and put on a beautiful performance because I love this sport, not necessarily because I don't like Merab.
I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah. The dead owl thing in the driveway is a little concerning, Luke, but that's refreshing right there. So, Merab though, Luke, didn't he just hurt another toe? Did you see that? I mean, the guy's just popping off toes left and right.
I don't know what to say about Merab, except he'll be there. He'll be there.
He'll absolutely be there. Luke, we're going to break down these matchups in depth on Wednesday, but the whole Kayla Harrison making weight and looking great doing it and being effective is a big part of this. I like that her story is really getting a push this week ahead of this title fight, and that we already know, took on the children of her sibling who was going through hard times, adopted them, became a mom, and is really an inspirational sort of encouraging figure in a lot of ways, but there's going to be a big physical task for her to finally climb this mountain. We're still looking at someone who can do really great historic things in the sport, and the idea of her potentially winning this championship and welcoming Amanda Nunes, it's the best news women's MMA has had in a while. So this Saturday's fight should be pretty interesting in that regard, Luke.
I'm telling you, I mean, you know, the whole month has got a lot of positivity to it, and there are some. Is it the best fight, the co-main this month, or even the main? Is it the best fight this month? No, probably isn't the best fight this month, but it's a quality main event. It's a quality co-main event for the most part, and interesting storylines all the way through.
You got Patchy Mix. You got Joe Pfeiffer's dislike for Mexico. We got a few things to focus on Wednesday's pregame.
It's amazing to me that he's like, I don't want to fight in Mexico. You know what? Let me go fight in Newark. Guys, Newark is not an improvement. I have terrible news for everybody.
Newark Penn will give you all those same water issues you had there in
and you'll get stabbed up on the walk home to the subway. So
maybe catch measles too on the way. That'd be fantastic right there. But no, the Patchy Mix storyline, very interesting. Can't wait to break this all down come Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. This has been the Road to UFC 316, brought to you by Total Wireless. Let's get friggin' fired up. Luke, those are our 5 topics for the week. Hey, Long Island Luke Nocita, quick update as we let the people know once again that MK merch, if you joined us late, it's back and it's live right now. morningkombat.shop. Long Island Luke, are you able to see in real time, or are we moving product?
We're moving product. We got almost 20 orders in so far, so appreciate everyone who's been ordering. And keep it
merch
coming.
is back. Okay, it helps us out. Let it help you out this summer in terms of tight t-shirts. Okay, let's do that thing. There you go. We now transition to a fan segment where every Sunday night at Morning Kombat on Instagram and X, we give you the opportunity to join the conversation and get your questions answered. Sometimes they jerk off a donkey for the intro. This one's called DMs from Donks. You know, I prefer the new one. I do. I mean, the first one's just so off-putting.
I don't know. They're both pretty. It's like computer jizz. You know, it's
okay. All right. Hey, our first one's from Johnny_Thump. If you're Erin Blanchfield, Johnny asks, do you call for the Manon Farrow rematch or shoot for the Natalia Silva matchup? What is the easier route to the title shot in your eyes, Luke Thomas?
Yeah, I don't go back to the Manon fight. She was fighting a brick wall that night. That was a terrible. I mean, unless you feel like you can really advance past it at this point. But dude, Manon is a tough out. You already lost to her. Try a different route. I don't go back to that at all.
Yeah, but as we talked about, Luke, if the next 2 fights for Val are Zhang Weili and then an already deserving to some degree Natalia Silva, it all comes down to whether UFC says, Erin, you have to go through Manon a second time because the title's not going to be available for a while. Or maybe Zhang Weili does get the next one. Is there any world in which they tell Natalia Silva you have to go through Manon yourself to get the title shot?
Unlikely. I would bet against that. Yeah.
Okay. But he wanted to know, if you're Erin, what would you do, Luke? And probably stay spicy and cold-blooded would be the answer, right?
Try to get a fight booked.
Get out of Jersey, maybe? No?
Leave Jersey permanently.
Okay.
And never go back.
There you go. Shout out to Erin Blanchfield. Let's hear from Eric Bolden. He says, what would be the odds for a Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes fight if Kayla demolished Pena first? Furthermore, could that fight headline a UFC pay-per-view and do decent numbers if the undercard is solid?
It's a good question for a resident gambling expert and boyfriend of the year. What do you think? What's the in the scenario that they're positing? Give me a line.
All right, so Kayla just first round finish over Juliana.
Let's say it's a round and a half, but it's just a fucking beatdown.
Ground and pound. It's a choke from behind.
Yeah, and not just that. Gets the takedown, passes to dominant position, and just works her over.
It's tough just because Amanda's going to be coming off however many year layoff now. Like, how long has she been out? It's probably going to be 2 years by the time.
2 years. I think it's 2 years for old Mandy. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's up there in age, if I'm not mistaken, over 35, right?
Yeah, she's also the greatest of all time. So take that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if she could stop the takedown, this is Amanda's fight. I'm gonna still. Fuck, man. This is a tough one to line. I'm gonna say Kayla Harrison is still the dog, but it's close. I'll say she's like plus 110, Amanda minus 130.
I'd go a little higher. I'd go Amanda like minus 190.
Well, the striking, she would have a potential dominant advantage. But look, outside of the first Valentina fight in round 3 and maybe the second GDR fight, we've never really seen Amanda like handled consistently on the ground, right?
There might be a couple more than that one, but yeah, I mean it's few and far between. Certainly, I mean the issue is this: like one of the things we've spotlighted, and we'll talk about it on Wednesday. Pena has terrible takedown defense from a statistical point of view, so you know it's hard to know what that might mean. If Harrison struggles against her but wins in terms of getting the takedown, you're like, oh, well, you're not going to get the takedown on Amanda.
Yes.
Then. You know what I mean? So then that's a different kind of conversation.
Just for age purposes, Kayla Harrison will turn 35 on July 2nd. And Amanda Nunes just 3 days ago turned 37.
Still, she can punch. You know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, the final question from Eric Bolden there was, could it be a main event on its own? I mean, it could be. But I would think it would be a co-main to a pretty good title fight and be a larger.
Yes, but if need be, it could headline. Yes.
Like, doesn't this kind of feel like the perfect IFW co-main, or am I no? Maybe?
It would and under that scenario, it'd be a perfect one. But you know, I don't know if they're going to wait that long or what's going to happen.
Point. Our third DM comes in from lowercase 3. He says, "Who are the fighters that make up the top 5 chins in active current MMA?" And what about historically? Vettori comes to mind for current fighters, considering he gets nuked and stays standing. Yeah, he's got a hell for modern UFC right now, active fighters. Vettori's got a hell of a beard. Hell.
Vettori, I mean, it's been cracked now, but it's, you know, historically speaking, even though he's still relevant, Max Holloway's chin has been fucking legendary.
John Jones, maybe, Luke?
John Jones has a phenomenal chin. You know, he just never gets hurt hardly at all. Trying to think like who else had like a really good chin. I mean, dude, like some of these guys, like they're not really relevant anymore, you know, but Stipe had a phenomenal chin. But honestly, like the beginning of the chin conversation historically starts with Nogueira. Nogueira has had maybe the most amazing chin I've ever seen at any weight class. Just an absolute demon to deal with. Josh Neer early on had a good chin.
Roy Nelson.
Roy Nelson had a ridiculous chin. A lot of these guys.
Mark Hunt up there?
Who?
Mark Hunt for a long time?
Yes, he had a good chin as well. I mean, again, you know, you have to kind of define the era in which it was their best because you see them when it gets cracked and then it's not the same anymore. But
Big Nog, dude. Prime Big Nog is just insanity.
Yeah, Nogueira. Yeah, I said Nogueira.
You said it. Good Lord. That might be my pick for the greatest chin ever because those pride fights were just the ones
Nogueira.
that he won.
Dude, Nogueira fought a nearly 400-pound sap who like separated his vertebrae on the first spike of the goddamn fight. Like, dude, and won it. You know what I mean? Like he's just insane. It's a different level of physical punishment you can tolerate.
Okay, to try to bring a female into this, do you put Juliana Pena in there?
No.
All right. Do you put anybody in there? No. Okay.
You know, Jessica Andrade has a respectable chin.
Yeah, but
it's been tapped. Yeah, no, I know. More recently, it's become more of a liability, but she's been hit with some big shots and.
Zhang Weili took her out quick, Luke.
I know. Again, now it's not the case, but there was a time. There was a time where she was.
I mean, before it went, Liddell could take a bomb.
Liddell, maybe Liz Carmouche had a decent chin for a while. She could take a big shot. Yeah.
All right. That's great. It was great talking to you on this one. Let's hear from What the Hell Russell. Question: with Mrs. Luke Thomas being of Colombian descent,
Colombia spelled wrong.
It's Columbia. Can Luke actually dance, or does a gangster still just bounce a little? Now, Luke, it's been established on this show that I will tear up your wedding reception dance floor and make it all about me. But can Luke move if he needs to?
I can salsa only because I've taken many, many salsa lessons. That's it. So, you know, do I freestyle? And can I freestyle? No, it's a disaster.
So wait, okay. We're at a wedding reception, all right?
Yeah.
We just finished eating. We're drinking. We're laughing with each other. And then like a traditional classic dancing banger. For the old people, it might be like Celebration or something. For me, who's also an old person, but a different era, it's going to Make You Sweat by CNC Music Factory. Let's say that song hits, Luke. We're at the reception together. Our wives grab us by the arms. We head out to the dance floor. You don't have like a little bit of like, just a, like, I don't mean to bring in the Trump dance, but like something like that, just a go-to safe move.
You mean like safe white guy, hold position, don't embarrass yourself, kind of like a tread water thing? Yes, I've got a tread water thing.
Okay.
But I can't like commit. You know what I mean? I can only commit under like very, very narrow circumstances.
Okay. That's fair.
But dude, they, you know, it's what do you want to say? It's a festive time. You got to be ready, you know?
Would you say Colombian people in general can really dance, or is that a bad
yes. It's the thing that you don't really understand. I didn't fully understand. And like, how can that be? Like, they're not born that way. It's just such a part of everything early on in their life, both like at school and in social life. They're always dancing. There's like dance is just a big element of life broadly, for young, for old, for everything. So yes, it's so pervasive that, you know, they are just better at it, right?
Would your wife be angry at Eileen Perez's post-winning theatric dancing in the UFC cage?
Upset? I don't think she'd be upset at it. She might have some choice words about it, but I don't think she'd be upset about it.
Okay, that's great. Finally, from Von Beckel, are you guys doing any camping this summer, or are you city rats?
So my family's been asking me to take them camping for maybe a solid year now.
And this is real camping, like drive to a campsite, put up a tent, right? You're not talking about like...
Okay, all right. So I'm glad you asked that, because first of all, I was an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts, right? So I was.
Dude,
when
it comes to things like, debate team, sergeant in the Marines, freaking Eagle Scout, Luke?
Yeah, so I was an Eagle Scout. I got it. How old was I? I got it before I was 15, 16, something like that. I think I just started I had a second year of high school, something like that. But I definitely did it. I was actually quite bitter about it because I had a single mom at the time, as everyone probably can recall me talking about, and I never had, they do like, this is the voice of the eagle thing when you get it, and I never had an eagle ceremony. So they gave me the patch. I was able to wear it. And I might even have it still in my closet somewhere. Do you know what the difference is between the Boy Scouts and the Explorers? The Explorers is like for older people, and it's actually co-ed, and you wear a green shirt, not a brown one. So I had that.
Not getting laid. Yeah, the Explorers.
Well, I did after that. After that, I was like, I think I'm done with this part of my life. And that's when the year after that is when I actually had my first serious girlfriend. So it actually kind of happened right like that. But in any case, between that and the Marine Corps, where I literally one time had to get hospitalized because of the number of mosquito bites on my face and head, I don't like being out in the elements anymore. I had to deal with so much suffering that it made me kind of like, I hate it, to be honest with you. So
I didn't expect you would say anything positive about camping.
Well, what I told them was, I'll do like the half thing where you can rent like a yurt. You ever seen these things called yurts? Sure. Or you can do glamping is what they call it. I told them I'll do that. But I'm not buying a tent at fucking Dick's and then setting it up and then getting chewed to death by fucking mosquitoes. I'm not doing that.
I'm chiming in here to say that my family, we go camping like every summer. We're going in a few weeks, and camping's great, man. Sleeping in a tent. You get a nice ped. You just sit in front of the fire all day drinking beers. I mean, it's a good time.
Not for Luke.
Do you hear yourself? Do you realize I have a child? Like, I mean, what planet are you living on?
Children. First of all my nieces and nephews come. They range in ages from 2 to 14.
Are you watching them?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, they're not my kids. Sometimes, sure, but
I have to say, Luke, back when we really didn't have money for, you know, what you would consider normal vacations or expensive vacations, we did a lot of family camping when the kids were small. We did a full week at Acadia National Park in Maine, and it's weird. It's amazing. At the end, you're like, wow, that was an incredible experience. But it's a lot. It's a lot of work to spend a whole week sleeping outside.
Yeah, and it's gonna be me and two Colombianas. Like, what, you think they're gonna help me set up the tent?
Yeah.
You think they're gonna help me make the fire? Like, I have to do everything.
It was great when my kids are small. I feel like once we could afford not to camp, we stopped. But I do miss it. It is a lot of setup. It's a lot of work.
And I don't have a tent. I don't have a sleeping bag. I don't have any gear. So now we have to go buy all this gear. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean, there is something about once it's all set up and you're looking at the lake and you're sitting in your chair, the fire's going. I mean, it is pretty awesome, Luke. Turn that phone off, right? Connect with nature.
That part is great. That's what I'm saying. If I could do a glamping scenario where I don't have to bring half of these provisions, we'll talk about it. But
all right, I don't think that's the most manly response you've had, though, considering you're an ex-Marine sergeant who survived Parris Island, right?
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I had to sit in the back of a 5-ton in New Jersey at Fort Dix one time. They didn't have a lid on the 5-ton, and it was snowing and freezing rain, and we had to ride on the back of that bitch for hours, dude. It's like I remember that night going to bed, and we actually made it back to the motor pool, and I got in my sleeping bag, and I remember I just could not get warm. Hour after hour, I just sat there freezing. And then when the summer hits, I had to get hospitalized because I couldn't open my eyes for the amount of mosquitoes that had feasted on me during the course of that evening. It's like, dude, you go through a few of these experiences, you're like, it's not that money outside. It's just not.
There we go. That was your DMs from Donks. Thank you for playing. A reminder that you can reach our program by emailing morningkombat@gmail.com. We will not have a show this Friday, programming update, obviously, as we'll have Wednesday's pregame preview. But the following week, you better believe we're coming strong with fan submissions and dead wrongs. And maybe you guys showing Mikey your package, but please don't. Our final segment involves me scouring the internet like I did yesterday during that brief break between flights in Dallas at the Admiral's Lounge. Shout out American Airlines, where I put together enough weird videos to try to make Luke uncomfortable. This one's called BC's Feces. Ooh, indeed. Luke, we start with the quote of the week, and it comes from Mike Bones' interview with the one and only Derek Lewis.
A couple of guys calling me out, so I think what I need to start doing now, once I knock guys out, start putting my finger in their ass. People don't want to call me out afterwards. So if I start putting my finger in my opponent's ass while they knocked out on the ground, I don't think nobody want to call me out anymore. No Diddy, no Diddy.
I guess that's funny if you're 5.
Oh, come on. That's great stuff from that man. He's known for that. Come on.
Yeah, again, I guess it's funny if you have been exposed to lead at an early age.
Hey, all right, Luke. Sorry about that. You know who's under fire this week on the old Twitter? Teofimo Lopez. 1 week after brawling over the internet with Turki Al-Sheikh, Teo is getting ripped for this tweet Saturday. To His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, I take full responsibility for my inappropriate words on the X app. I publicly apologize to HE. I will conduct myself with greater respect, humility, and professionalism, sending love and light to all. #boxing.
Yeah, except African Americans, but yes, to everybody else, he probably is. That's right.
Luke, does this look like the way the boxing public is receiving it? That you talk all that junk until it comes time to lose money, and now you're back kissing HE's ball bag?
Yeah, Teo is a great boxer and seems to be a terrible person, but I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean,
it's hard because he's one of my favorite personalities until the hard R era, but it's just damn.
The hard R era. That's what we're living in, BC.
Well, Luke,
we're living in the hard R era.
Our next subcategory is a shout out to all things father-daughter bonding, you and the late Kobe Bryant, #girl dads. And Luke, do you ever go golfing with Tukey?
I've taken her to the driving range. Definitely done that. Putt golf. Done that too.
This dad has done the same thing.
What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be golfing with my daughter.
How high were you when you put this together?
I wouldn't recommend that, but and Luke, unfortunately, your tickets for the father-daughter Shakira concert fell through, but this could have been you.
Yo, why are you wearing shades? I don't want anybody to know what I'm looking at. Oh.
Okay. That one's better.
And Luke, this last clip is definitely not the way we want father bonding to go for anybody.
If you found out your daughter was an OnlyFans model, what would you do?
Well, I would probably have to unsubscribe.
No sound, but that's a good joke. That's
I heard the sound. You didn't hear the sound?
I didn't hear the sound. No.
It was only in the left speaker.
All right.
Oh, that's right.
I
got it missing on the other way. Yeah. There you go.
Well, is Luke going to have a problem moving forward?
No, I think it was just that clip.
Okay.
All right.
I can switch, but yeah.
Luke, it's time for your local news interruptions of the week. Here's Molly McBride.
shopping plaza, from sandwich shops to liquor stores, even adults. You got a donut? Sorry. You got a donut? You got a donut? You got a donut? We'll check back in with Molly in just a moment. Looks like she's having some interactions there.
Bro.
Look, did she have a dollar? Look, I didn't catch that at the end.
If you've not been to Vegas, how would you describe it, BC? The vagrants who waft through strip mall parking lots in Vegas are a unique kind of breed that you typically don't see in a lot of other American cities. True or false?
Well, I see him in Newark, but yes, Luke,
Yeah.
yes.
It's just people coming and going. I mean, that guy might have been down on his luck a little bit there, obviously, but it's just like, I'm telling you, walking through a parking lot in a Vegas strip mall you're going to see some wild shit. Let's put it that way.
Yes, you will. Here's our second news blooper of the week. Listen to this lady closely.
The police wouldn't let me go through 122nd, so I had to go around 119th and go. They let me look at the lawyer's building. I know the vacuum cleaner man. He's seen my tits. I know that's not going on TV, but it's true. It's true. I'm not here to lie to you.
Luke, truth prevails again. Okay.
That poor guy.
Well, he came to sell her a vacuum and he got a Foley out of that. Okay. So
you know what? Actually, credit to him. He was like, here, I'm here to vacuum. She's like, no, you're not. Take a look at these.
Okay. Well, Luke, we honored.
She's like the landlord in Kingpin.
We honored the great Long Island Luke with his contributions to getting our merch off the ground. And here's a young kid standing up for Long Island Luke's pronunciation of the word coffee.
Yo, guys, I was at Starbucks, and the guy asked me, do you want a cup of coffee? I said, yo, guy, it's a cup of coffee. And I'm 12 years old, and I don't drink coffee. But if I did drink coffee, I would drink espresso with no sugar, like a real man, and with the side of no problems. How you doing?
Long Island Luke, you must feel attacked by this.
I mean, he's on point. It is a cup of coffee. You know?
Tu gente. That's who that is. Tu gente.
And this is normally what a Long Island Luke is like on a podcast if you haven't watched the Main Card Minute.
In the back seat with my
I mean, Long Island Luke, what happened on the podcast when the main event was canceled? Was it just, all right, let's just...
No, we just sat and talked about it for like another 30 minutes or so with everyone in the chat, because we were all just like, fuck. It kind of felt, someone described it as being blue-balled. It was kind of an accurate description, because you're like waiting for the main event, and then they're like, oh no, actually the card's over. And you're like,
risky take by you, considering it was a female main event, but that's just fine with me. All
I
right.
just went to bed.
All right, here's Bud Crawford playing our boy Zach and Barack.
Who's the hardest puncher you ever faced?
shit, D.
Who?
These nuts.
Got him.
Yes,
you a grown man.
Luke, I popped for that. Come on.
He sold it well. I'll say that. He sold it well.
Luke, signs everywhere. There's signs. Wherever this is, we need to show up, right?
God damn. What the fuck's going on over there?
I don't know, but I'm kind of interested. Also, Luke, while you're at it, please don't jerk and drive. Let's go to the next one. Okay. What are we doing here?
You know what? I needed to hear that before I got behind the wheel of the car today, because I was definitely thinking of, going to Lowe's or something and then just having a
disgusting. It's time for your biggest L's of the week. Let's hit the runway at the fashion show, Luke. What do you think is going to happen here?
I have a feeling this is going to end terribly. Yep, here we go. There we go.
Okay, all right. Maybe we should get some railings on there here. Let's also go to the funeral RIP. I mean,
are we about to see some heinous shit?
I hope not, Luke. I mean, I don't always screen all these, but they're honoring one who's passed, one who has fallen, if you will, right?
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God.
Okay.
What the fuck?
I want you to know that North Korea did approve that for today's show, just so you know. But
how did the North Korean censors let that one through?
I actually had to get a full approval, but not the first dead body we've shown on this show.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever carried a casket before?
I have. Yes, my great aunt, who was 103, I carried her casket.
Wow. I had to carry a casket when I was a teenager. I had a friend who was a teen who died. It's not the most fun experience. Don't recommend that.
I mean, especially when the bottom drops out, Luke, but that's awful. Hey, did you ever you did a lot of nerd stuff. Did you do college team trivia at William and Mary?
I did not do that at William and Mary, no.
All right. Well, here's these kids doing it.
Whose last words were, "Let's do it"? Sandy Valley?
The passengers of Flight 93.
Incorrect.
So that answer was "let's roll," not "let's do it." Who was the answer? Do we know?
I don't know, but that was, maybe an unnecessary callback to a tragedy indeed right there. Also, Luke, do you ever at your graduation just want to grab your diploma and be like, F you for the last 4 years? This kid did.
Hey everyone, this motherfucker is a dumbass. Thank you everyone. Fuck you. Have a good day.
Wow.
No, I mean, I didn't have general hostility at the institution that was granting me a certification of completion of their programs, but I'm also, not a fucking idiot like this guy. So,
well, Luke, people have asked often, who's your favorite character in this segment? What do you think the answer would be? Cake Lady, obviously. Let's check in with her, Luke.
Oh, God! Where is a drive-by shooter when you need one? She's gonna eat the fucking. Oh my God!
Oh boy, Luke, the French
you
cake
just
lady.
know her dumps are next level insane.
Okay. She lives in France. I don't know if her English is good. If I can get her on this program, will you be okay with that?
She's gonna start eating her hands and shit. It's gonna be really.
I'm into that. Okay, I'm definitely into that. Speaking of would you eat, Luke, this is the big get you can get at the Major League Baseball Stadium. It's called the Slugger Dog. It's $40 and it's a 16-inch glizzy.
Wow, my man went to work on the shaboing boing, didn't he?
I was gonna say, should you get after the hog that aggressive?
Yeah, why don't you put more mayo on it, you fucking absolute cretin?
All right, that's great stuff here. Luke, cats, as we know from Reggie and Zoe already appearing on today's episode, they're the coolest animals ever. All right, you know that. Watch this. Oh, yeah. Wake up, wake and bake, right? That's great stuff right there. All right.
Hell yeah. Mittens wants to get to work on that.
Here's Mittens' brother, also interested. All right, Luke. Yeah.
Yeah. Give him a bit.
All right. There you go. Luke, there's an announcement here for all potential homeowners.
You're not going to believe this. See this right here? See this hole? Could be a mouse, a rat, a mole. I don't know. I had gerbils and hamsters when I was a kid, so I've got kind of a love for these animals. The inside of this tube is scented with a pheromone that will attract whatever kind of rodent this is to go right in the tube and run out the other side. Now all we got to do is wait for these babies to get to their new home.
That clip was brought to you by Richard Gere, Luke, obviously. Okay, all right.
Such an old man reference that Richard Gere snuck gerbils in his ass.
Oh, Luke, you a big Back to the Future fan like Jay Aaron?
I do like Back to the Future, yeah.
All right, some people have issues with the plot hole consistencies, right?
You know what? He did miss that detail.
Anyways, Luke, them streets are pretty crazy, yo. Watch out. Let's go to some road rage here. There's the Cajun. Is that pronounced Cajon? Cajun Pass?
I'm guessing Cajon, but I don't know.
Oh, get after
hell
it.
Yeah.
Dude, I have seen this before a few times, Luke, in Connecticut. This is great.
Man, just slugging it out. That's awesome. Dude, there was a video that the local news did of this year's valedictorian from Harvard.
Yes.
It's an Asian girl. They're talking to her, and in the background of wherever they were in Cambridge, two American guys start fighting, and it's like, this seems like a metaphor for our life right now.
Indeed. Also, Luke, you big into drive-thrus?
I live in the city, so drive-thrus aren't that common here, but when in Rome, sure.
Well, if you don't have one in your city, just make one. Okay, that's
Why were they banging up the Dollar Tree that way? What the fuck was that?
I could buy the whole store with what's in my wallet. Look, I don't know. That's pretty wild here. Here's your Subway fight of the week, though.
Call the police. That's why I'm calling. The next stop is Broadway. Why are you spitting the floor? Call them up. Clear up the closing doors, please. Shut the fuck up. Whatever, punk.
Dude, he had to sit on that train ride after just getting bitched and everyone looking at him. He's like, whatever, punk.
Luke, it's time for your worst t-shirts of the week. Let's check out this couple first. That man loves finger painting.
These two look like classy individuals.
Okay. All right. Well, Luke, it's good to have a wingman like this next guy, right? When you go out.
Hey, listen, someone's got to jump on that grenade. He's making it explicit.
Luke, we got one more for you. Have you heard the latest new woke world mandate that barbers need to ask permission first? You hear about this?
All right, before we start today, is it okay if I touch you?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, bet.
I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. I'm gonna decline that part of the service. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's the shit of the week. Hope you enjoyed that. All
That's
right.
a C.
Hey,
C.
See, you're gonna give a C to that? Come on. Well,
yeah, that's a C.
All right. See that. See them. All right. That's all the show we can provide for you today, though. Thank you for playing one more time. If you like this brand new shirt right here, you like the one on Luke's chest, why don't you head over to morningkombat.shop right freaking now. Merch 3.0 is back. It's a new era. It's a new season in our life. Long Island Luke Thomas, and myself, Average Joe Art, helping out. We have been so pleased to be able to get this off the ground. So thank you for supporting the show, and new designs coming every single month, limited edition. And don't forget, you can also order the signed Beavis and Butthead Morning Kombat posters right now, signed by Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell. Get fired up. Let's go. That's all I got. You know what I mean? Anything else from Long Island Luke? You got anything else to say?
UFC 316 bet breakdown coming out today. Tune in for that. I'll be doing the full card watch along Saturday. You already know the drill.
Wednesday, brought to you by Cuervo. It is pregame preview UFC 316. So no show this Friday, but check us out Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Abron will join us. Luke Thomas, they can follow us at the handles below. They can check out our content on YouTube. You also have good things going on over at Substack. Any things people should be looking for this week?
I'm going to be doing, a fight day episode where we watch old fights together and watch breakdown tape. So that'll be later on Substack, but I'll have a bunch of stuff on YouTube as well. YouTube.com/Luke Thomas.
Great stuff. We'll see you guys on Wednesday, and have a great week. All right, let's go. Let's get fired up. Good weather outside. Raise your spirits. Enjoy life. Get after it. For BC and LT and LIL. Apparently, I'm also BC. Have a great time. But we out.
All the smoke fighters headed to the Hall of Fame. That's right. This year's International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend in boxing's hometown, Canastota, New York. It takes place from Thursday, June 5th through Sunday, June 8th, ending with an annual ceremony immortalizing boxing's all-time greats. The International Boxing Hall of Fame are hosting fan events and experiences all weekend long. On Friday night, June 6th, Salida Promotion will present a terrific fight card in association with All the Smoke Fight, live on the Zone from the Turning Stone Resort Casino in Ramona, New York. Featuring USBA heavyweight champion Brandon Moore, defending his title against undefeated prospect Stanley Wright in the main event. Plus a stacked undercard featuring world champion Franchon Cruz-Dezern and rising prospects JJ Pagan and DeVell Smith. Sounds to me we're going to have a great fight night. And of course, Sunday, the ceremony to induct the class of 2025. Legends like Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, Michael second to none, and the Tasmanian Devil, Vinny Paz. Join All the Smoke Fight and Salida Promotion at Turning Stone Resort Casino for this year's International Boxing Hall of Fame induction
induction weekend.
Hey, listen, visit turningstone.com for accommodations and tickets to Friday's fight night. Visit ibhof.com for the full induction weekend schedule.